The meeting today, April 9th, 2025, today's date. Just want to welcome Corporal Painter here today, Corporal, and I want to call the meeting to order. We acknowledge the land upon us which we gather as the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq, and we pay our respects to the Indigenous Mi'kmaq people of this territory, past, present, and future. So move down to number 2, declaration of conflict of interest. Anybody on the table here with a conflict of interest tonight we should know of? Okay, so move down to 3, approval of agenda. I know we have some housekeeping there for this one.
Yes, Your Worship, I'd proposed on a motion to move finance and our planning, development, heritage, which is scheduled at number 14 of our agenda, up to number 12, recreation, culture, and events. And I proposed to move recreation to number 14.
Okay, so recreation's going to 14 and you're going to 12, right?
That would be the request, and that's based upon the fact that we do have some consultants here who may be wishing to speak on one of our planning matters. So rather than tie them up too long, that would be my proposal.
Okay, thank you. Okay, everybody agreed to that?
I'll second that.
Make a motion?
Yeah, that, and Councillor Jackson seconded. We just need to vote, Your Worship.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we move down to make those changes. So we, the minutes, we're looking at minutes, council meeting minutes on, so we approve the agenda. Everybody agreed to approve the agenda?
Yep.
Yep. Want to make a motion on it? We already did, I guess.
For the agenda?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's carried.
Okay, it's carried.
Yeah.
Okay, then we'll move down to minutes, regular council meetings, minutes of last month.
Yes, Your Worship, and I will, I'll move to approve those. I've had the opportunity to review those in advance.
Okay. You can second it, Councillor Chandler? Everybody got a chance to look at them? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, move down then. And we'll move down to special council meeting, March 26th. You're going to move that, Councillor Jackson? Seconded by Councillor Cox? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we can, down farther, can we have business arising from those minutes? Any business arising from those minutes? I guess not. Presentations from the floor? No. Okay, the mayor's report. I'll step in there. The mayor's away at the moment, so you look at the mayor's report, everyone. Chair of the regular monthly meeting, council committee of a whole. The meetings he attended, the diversity meeting, the committees, the sustainability committee, the planning board committee, the intergovernmental affairs committee. He participated in a meeting in a heritage subcommittee. Culture and diversity training from the Immigrant and Refugee Service Association. Myself and Steve were there. That was great, put on by Wendy and the staff. It was a great workshop. Along with myself and the CEO, attended a quarterly meeting with the RCMP, discussed the policing for the town of Stratford. Along with council members and CEO and staff from the planning department, attended a presentation by the Gray Group for an update on the Crossroads development. I think it was beneficial to everyone. I guess the positive comments around the table on that meeting with the Gray Group, with Trevor and Jeff and so on. Along with the CEO and Deputy CEO, met with Kent McDonald, candidate for the karting and riding, and along with CEO and Deputy CEO and with myself, and met with James Elward, the candidate for karting and riding. So participate in the meeting with council, senior staff, and consultant regarding the official plan. Moved down to, I was very honored to have participated in the provided remarks in a Norovo 225 Persian New Year celebration. Very honored to attend the PEI Heritage and Museum Awards ceremony, and staff were in Town of Stratford Heritage Subcommittee were presented with the Heritage Recognition Award. I was interviewed by CBC, providing funding to PEI municipalities, including the Town of Stratford, and attended the Federation of PEI Municipalities, FPI EIM board meeting. Along with the CEO, myself, Deputy CEO, attended a meeting with the members of the Yogi Divine Society of Canada, discussed several proposed parcels of land that could be suitable for the facility. spoke and visited with several residents to discuss various issues, attended an internal meeting and looked after day-to-day affairs of town. So that's the mayor's report. Just one thing there myself, I attended a Bangladesh reception in Tracadie, attendance over a couple hundred people, and the society itself is being registered as a corporation now, which is nice. Talked to them, and the food was great. The reception was really, people very, very friendly and hospitable, and it went over well. And I believe talking to the members of the society, there was 40 residents from the town of Stratford at the Bangladesh background. So it was nice to see, and it was a great event put on by that society. So we'll move down to CEO report. Our CEO, Jeremy Crosby.
Thank you, Your Worship. Board is in your package. I'll just go over a few of the highlights. Attended the public meeting regarding the street vendors bylaw and proposed changes to the Kelly Heights Phase 3 subdivision. Wasn't a lot of the public there, but those that were there did have good information and questions. Attended a meeting with the Deputy CAO and members of the Infrastructure Department and the Prince Edward Island Department of Transportation and Infrastructure to discuss the new location of the junior high school. Some good discussion there. Along with the mayor and deputy mayor, attended the quarterly meeting with the RCMP, as the deputy mayor indicated, and always good information there and good discussion with regard to policing in Stratford. Along with the mayor and council members and the planning department, attended a presentation by the Grey Group. Really good update on where the Grey Group is heading and some of the projects they have planned for the several following years. Attended a meeting with members of planning and infrastructure departments to discuss proposed changes to the zoning and development along sections of Stratford Road and Hopetoun Road. The meeting included representatives from PEI Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. That was a good meeting just to discuss some of the proposed changes and how it would affect the transportation road network along there, and to get their input in that before we actually go through with any rezoning. And also attended the special council meeting to pass the town and utility operating and capital budgets. Great job done by our councillor there, Jody Jackson. And in addition to that, still working on trying to get funding for the community campus project, and been busy preparing materials and information for the members running in the Cardigan riding. We've met with 2 so far, and we have another meeting coming up with another member here soon, but just want to make sure they're fully informed of all the things that are going on in Stratford and what's important to residents and council. So I'm here to answer any questions.
Any questions to Mr. Crosby? Good. Ronnie?
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move down to sustainability report. Councillor Jill Chandler.
Okay. I'll just give some highlights of the work underway in the area of sustainability. The residential tree planting program, the deadline has been extended till April 18th. The Fix a Leak Week was a success. That ran from March 17th to the 23rd in collaboration with the City of Charlottetown and the Town of Cornwall, and it raised awareness about water conservation, encouraging residents to take action in reducing household water waste, and the prizes have been distributed to contest winners who participated. It's been considered a success. Forest management plan, the town has been approved for $22,000 in funding from TransCanada Trails to support the implementation of recommendations from the forest management plan. The funding will be used to plant saplings in the high priority areas as identified in the plan during the upcoming season. Water School is underway from April 7th to April 24th. More details on that in the package. The town recently launched a radio campaign, Think Stratford, that has been running for a couple of months. The program supports the local business community and has received positive feedback on the ads. It does feature different businesses. I heard one recently highlighting Stratford Pizza. So I think that's a great success. The town plans to schedule a date potentially in April or May to lead a conversation about a reinvigorated Stratford business group. So I really look forward to that. And the Diversity and Inclusion Subcommittee have completed their work on the town's anniversary book, which is now in the design stage, and that's where 15 youth were paired with 15 older residents. I believe my father was one. And the book launch is planned for May in an upcoming event. Committee also began a review of the diversity and inclusion plan at the recent meeting to determine kind of how far along the committee is, how far they are along in their plan and what is yet to be completed. And the committee, through town staff, recently undertook the creation of a short video to highlight some of the events and activities the town has held. And finally, staff and council recently had a training session on cultural diversity, and that was by the Immigrant and Refugee Service Association of PEI, which was well attended and well received, with a potential second session to be offered for a future time. So that's an update on the sustainability portfolio. Any questions from anyone?
Thank you. Any questions to Councillor Chandler?
Just a comment on that radio campaign, similarly to yourself, Councillor Chandler. Heard the ads myself, also gotten good feedback from members of the community, so well done to everybody in that, on that file.
Anything else? Good. Okay. We'll move down to the transit graph.
Okay, so we'll just have a quick peek at the transit summary for the month of March. And you can see in our 2025 line that we are on a steady upwards tick right now. So if that continues, we're in good shape. It's not quite this as steep as some of the other years, and we can speculate as to why. And as CEO Crosby highlighted, I think, that we are in current conversations in regards to our new transit agreement. So we'll just continue to keep an eye on that. I know in our intergovernmental affairs committee meeting, like, we are really interested in hearing feedback and from users and potential users on transit and how they are interacting with it now and what could be improved with the service. So we can all be ears and eyes for that. And that's pretty much all the information I have on the transit report right now.
Thank you. There's nothing to add to that, CEO Crosby, in regards to transit?
As was indicated, we are going through negotiations right now. We do have one of the staff from Charlottetown sitting down with the operator right now to kind of go over some of the smaller details so it doesn't bog down a lot of time. We've been meeting several times as a group, just not making as much forward progress as we'd like. So some of the smaller things, they're nailing down those issues, and then the larger items, we're going to regroup here and meet again very shortly. The transit providers looking at all the information with regard to the rolling stock and equipment that they have, going to give us a summary and update on that very soon, which will be good information for us to have. We're also investigating new routes in Stratford at some point, but we want to get these negotiations out of the way before we get heavy into that information, so we know exactly what we are going to be paying as far as an hourly rate or service hour rate in the future. And also, there is some discussion with regard to the fare box, whether that stays with the operator or comes back to the community. So those are some of the points that we're doing right now. But hopefully by midsummer or so, we have some more information on where we are with the actual agreement. Any questions on that?
Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jeremy, Mr. Crosby, COO. Now we'll move down to intergovernmental affairs and accountability report. Coming back with Councillor Jill Chandler.
Yes, just some highlights from our last Intergovernmental Affairs and Accountability Committee meeting. At the most recent meeting, we of course discussed the preparation of the federal election written form. So the group was tasked with coming up with a series of questions in complement to questions I think that we've probably received from residents and some council members that we could provide to all the Cardigan riding candidates. So each candidate has been asked to respond to the questions in writing, which will be published for residents to view on our website. And as far as I understand, The written form is now live on our website, and I think we've had one candidate respond, and those answers are posted now, and it will continue to be updated as new information comes in. Other areas of discussion in the meeting were the Housing Accelerator Fund, Annual Resident Survey, and Transit Agreement. Ongoing meetings continue to be held with our provincial MLAs on a regular basis. And the other topic, again, top of mind for you guys, I hope, is the Annual Resident Survey, which is set to close on April 22nd,
Yeah.
with paper copies have been mailed out. And of course, this survey can be completed online as well, quite easily. So if you would like to share that information, that would be great. And your help encouraging residents to participate would be much appreciated. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. I just, going back to your, with regards to the community campus, the questions they were asking, the candidates in the federal election, I know it's one of the 7 questions, and how important it is to the town of Stratford to achieve this, with, especially with a great collaboration with the PEI government and our own self-municipality, with the 2 high schools going up, being constructed to 2027, and the other one later, the junior high. So it's very important. I just want to voice my opinion to, I know it's being recorded here, that when the candidates come to the doors, ask questions, do you support this community campus? Because it's a very involved and large project, deal with the residents and so on. So, and our future growth of the town of Stratford, with the 6 soccer fields, and the cricket and softball and so on, and the schools and everything else. It's a campus, I mean, out of this world. It's just, it's unbelievable how the things come together. But we're looking at, we have support from 2 governments, and we're just looking for support for the 3rd government. And if that happens, it'll hopefully have the shovels in the ground. So any other comments around the table?
I'm just going to state this for the record, and I might have said something, I probably should have said something about the conflict in the interim, but I should have articulated this at the beginning, that I've recently accepted a position with the Federal Public Service, so I'm just going to abstain from comment on this issue at this point in time, and I just wanted to make that clear, just because we're in what's called the caretaker convention right now, so I've got to be very careful about any representations I make in that regard.
Yeah. And I can go back and I can be very demanding, but I'm saying it's, you see wellness centers built in Rustico, Tyne Valley, Summerside, and so on. And we have a wellness center in our own community. And this population of this community, it's, you know, like 12 to 14,000. And I know the voting is 8 to 9,000 people can vote. So, so it's very important we get this through, and hopefully the residents realize how important it is, and we're just looking to move on there from that. So, any other one to add to it? So we're done there. We'll move down to safety services. Councillor Ron Dowling.
Thank you, Your Worship. Safety services package has been circulated, including the unapproved safety services committee meeting from March 17th, 2025. And I'll open the floor for any questions in relation to that, the items contained within that report. Okay, hearing none, Your Worship, I'll move on then to the RCMP reports. There's several there contained within, and I think we have Corporal Painter with us this evening. I'll call Corporal Painter up to the podium. He can kind of give us an overview of those.
Yep. Thank you, Worship Council. Couple quick points here. So through the month of March, town of Stratford, we had 386 occurrences, 269 of them being traffic-related offenses. There was an error in the paperwork there as far as step files, so select traffic enforcement program, I believe it said 29, but it was actually 50. Many of those like within the school zone. In Route 1, 9 check stops, 10 motor vehicle collisions, 58 summary offense tickets and 142 warnings. We had 7 impaired driving occurrences. 2 of them were charged alcohol-related. Of note, scary enough, 1 blew 4 times the legal limit, 1 2.5 times the legal limit. 2 others were impaired by a drug, and those are pending blood samples. Our provincial priority unit, which is our traffic unit, with the assistance of general duty members in Stratford, performed traffic enforcement, conducting numerous checkpoints for impaired drivers, coinciding with MAD Canada's Impaired Driving Prevention Week. And in relation to, they did it all throughout the province, but in relation to Stratford, conducted checkpoints on Bunbury Road, Keppoch Road, and Route 1, where they checked 820 vehicles, wrote 3 summary offense tickets, 2 warnings, and 2 impaired drivers, 1 by cannabis, 1 by combination, alcohol and cannabis. The other point I was going to make, I know last meeting we spoke about trying to spread the word on frauds and making sure we lock our houses, vehicles, keep our yards clean and stuff. So I spoke to our media relations group. They're going to try to fan that out on a regular basis with the weather hopefully getting nicer here. And then the fraud presentations. So at a recent supervisor meeting, we spoke about this. With it being the new fiscal year, we're going to try to prepare some presentations and be open to talks or presentations wherever requested. So I think that's the main points anyways from the RCMP standpoint. Have any questions?
I just said, oh,
You go ahead, that's okay, go ahead.
sorry, didn't mean to jump you there.
Sorry. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
The reports of theft that were non-gas related, just wondering, and if you can't comment, that's fine. Were you able to use any of the e-watch cameras installed in the municipality to assist in those?
Not that I'm aware of. So the a couple of them are what like petty thefts, like smaller items.
Sure.
One was off the top of my head here. One was a new build. On 2 occasions, 2 nights in a row, actually, they hit them and stole some property from the new build, some construction workers there. So, so those would be the couple off the top of my head. As far as I know, there was no e-watch.
Okay. And just second question, Corporal. The collisions, especially the 4 reportable damage, can you comment on if they were speed related and where they might have occurred at?
Well, next month will be much different because the snow hit the other day and we had quite a day on the Hillsborough Bridge there. But
Right.
as far as the collisions, off the top of my head, I'm not sure. I know the ones that we attended were intersection related,
Okay.
Roundabout related,
Okay.
on our watch there. So.
Very good.
Speed definitely continues to be a factor, though. It's yeah, and the weather's only getting nicer, which is probably going to make it worse.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Just a quick question. The person that was caught 4 times over, like, what are the ramifications for that person? What are they facing? What happens to a person that blows a .32?
Yeah, that's that'll be up to the judge at the end of the day. They go through the same process as if the legal limit's considered 80. So if you blew 80 or you blew 320, still go to court the same way. It's just they're sentenced differently. So the judge will look. Maybe they have previous. I don't personally know this person. Maybe they have previous impaireds, which will affect come sentencing time. They might lose their license for a longer period of time instead of 1 year. It might be 2 years. The fine could double, but it's hard to say
Yeah.
what Judge Orr might do there. so.
But the car gets impounded for a
Yep.
certain amount of time. and
That's
there's
right, so they still.
Large
they-
fee, yeah,
Yeah, it's still the same process, so they're losing their license for
Right.
24 hours.
insurance goes up, there's a lot of
with the
things
back.
that,
That's right,
Yeah.
yeah. Unfortunately, it's not stopping people, any of the sentences that they are getting, right? So,
yeah.
that's pretty scary. You know, you're meeting somebody blowing 4 times the legal limit, so,
That's crazy, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
yeah.
Sorry, just one question in regards to the mischief incidents. I noticed that as compared to previous years, we're at 12 for last month, where it was 5 year over year. So is that a worrisome that it's 2.5 times higher than it was last year at this time?
Yeah, and sometimes it's just the way that the files are scored.
Okay.
Sometimes you're stuck between, I know, there's probably about, let's see if I can see it really quick here. Mischief account for 12 occurrences, yeah, so many of those were disputes between roommates. So it's not necessarily a mischief in terms of somebody damaging your car, or your property.
Okay.
It's like a dispute between the two of them, and it's called, there's a couple different levels of mischief, but enjoyment of property would be the majority of these, where it's basically, they're fighting, and that's why we get called there. So it's scored mischief where it could have been potentially scored as something different,
Okay.
but in this case here, I think there were 7 of the 12 were between those same 2 people.
Oh, okay.
Fighting back and forth, so.
Okay, that's insightful.
Yeah, they don't live together anymore though, so
Good work.
we should be,
Excellent.
they should get out next month.
And it could be a noise bylaw too, right?
Yeah, it could
Yeah.
be, so,
You know,
yeah,
the mischief, enjoyment, use of property.
I incorrectly assumed, because I think in maybe other conversations, that it was some sort of damage against property or the car, like
Yeah,
rifling
if
through a
someone
car, that
damages
sort of stuff,
property.
so,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you for the clarity,
yeah.
clarification.
Councillor Dowling?
Any other questions for Corporal Painter?
I just got a, sorry, go, Jody.
Oh, just a question.
That's on? Okay, just a question on E-Watch. Hearing that we had theft, sorry, I have my back to you.
No, that's
Cool.
okay.
Theft at Green Diamond, I think of some doors off of an ATV. And just with the buildup of the campus, I'm wondering if there's value or if there's any consideration, I guess, not looking for an answer tonight, just around having an E-Watch camera somewhere at that, near the business park, campus entry in kind of that area. There's a lot of high-value business and property in that area. It'd be nice if that's someplace we could maybe prioritize.
Okay.
Because if they went back towards town, they're probably not getting caught on the E-Watch at the upper part of the roundabout, but just as we continue to expand, it'd be nice if we could expand it where there's, again, these high-value items. Thank you.
That was an item Councillor Jackson brought up at the last committee meeting, and staff are in the process of collaborating with the RCMP to identify which areas should be prioritized in relation to the installation of the cameras, and we continue, in fact, we're just exploring a new program for funding in conjunction with local businesses, the E-Watch cameras. So we continue to roll them out, and hopefully that'll continue more and more in the months ahead. And like I say, whether it would, capture anything specific to a particular business, perhaps not, but traffic flow to and from, it certainly would.
Yeah, that's a good comment, Ron, and same as Jody's comment there is, we're sitting down with the superintendent and picking designated locations. I know Corporal Painter, there's a new camera on the Maritime Electric, just recently put on one there, so
That's right.
that could help. I know that area, John Deere, with the the bikes and everything on the front lawn, they can tend to go quickly.
Yeah, and I think
And,
they were also gonna try to
yeah.
bump up their security system.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
But on your report, Corporal, I mean, I'm looking at all these stats, and I mean, great that 43 expired, 42 like warning tickets, and some summary offense tickets. It's nice to see that all that stuff is self-generated. So if people don't know what self-generated is, it's more or less an initiative taken from this gentleman telling his staff to get out there and get some work done. So I see even the STEP program, that's 29, that's you did 29 of those, right?
So it was actually 50, that was a misprint. It was actually 50, which.
50?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is much better.
So that's great work, like, you know, it's
thank you.
positive stuff, and especially with the warnings and with the cost of an expensive ticket to a warning. Sometimes, like I always said, a warning is always good as a stop, right?
That's right.
People
yeah.
see you.
Yep.
The lights are on, people see you and know you're in the community and so on, so it's, a warning's always good. And do you guys have a date later where you come in, if they don't pay, if they don't get it done, do you guys fill that out?
If there's if you issue a warning?
Yeah,
No, we don't. If a warning is typically a warning, we
Yeah.
will do, not on top of my head here, but we will issue some paperwork and make
Yeah.
them provide, you know, like tinted windows or something like that
Yeah.
potentially. And, you know, you come in on a certain day and provide proof that you took your tint off your windows, and, you know, we'll waive that ticket. So, yeah.
yeah, no, it's great. It just shows that the price of everything, like food, like it's sort of common sense there, and that
Yeah.
people, you know, are expired, just one of those, just a reminder to get it done, right, you know, and get it done and then move on, right?
Yeah.
So, no, it's great work there. I was just looking at the numbers there. And the check stops are very important there, and Councillor Cox was saying about impaired drivers and so on. They're always very important, so.
Yeah. Yep. Stay visible, and, you know, with the nicer weather, there'll be more traffic out and about.
Yeah,
Hopefully, we will be out more and about too.
yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Corporal
Okay,
Painter. It's
thank you.
obvious from the statistics that it's your department, your detachment staying very busy across the board. Appreciate you coming in and spending time with us this evening to provide us with those details. Next up is the Humane Society report. Nothing is out of the ordinary there.
Nope.
4 stray cats to the shelter, 23 community patrols. So, is there any questions in relation to the Humane Society report? Next is the Crossroads Fire Company calls report for March 2025. Nothing anomalous there or out of the ordinary in relation to previous months. The total calls are up slightly. Otherwise, before we open it up for questions, I'll just make a comment that we're getting into grass season in the next month or two, and caution people if they're burning debris or burning grass to be very, very careful, because it can quickly get out of hand, and calls tend to go up dramatically in the springtime as a result of that. But our fire company and all of its volunteers are doing a wonderful job. And I commend them for the task that they do and the time that they commit to it on a volunteer basis.
Yes.
Is there any questions in relation to the fire report specifically? We did have a discussion at the last meeting. A question was raised in relation to false alarms and whether there could be anything done in relation to kind of lowering the incidence of false alarms, and the chief had indicated that there really isn't, because, you know, if an alarm goes, they have to respond to it, and oftentimes it's things like poor batteries in detectors, that sort of thing that trigger those. So they attend and they resolve the issue, and they do admonish the frequent flyers, and there are several buildings that seem to be a little more commonplace than others, but
Yeah.
at this point there's little that can be done in relation to it. But
I guess some of the, we talked about some of the buildings in Stratford, we have non-attended, like unattended buildings. Most of them boarded up and checked regularly on a weekly basis, I guess.
Yeah, there's one in particular that was
Yeah.
brought up at the last meeting as well, in relation to, give the address out, but
Yeah.
there has been incidents in the past, recent months, I guess last fall, where people were going in and basically taking up residence in the building. And that's always a risk, because oftentimes they'll start small fires and that sort of thing.
Yep.
So the building's been boarded up, it's checked regularly, and any, incidents of vacant buildings are watched carefully, and certainly any reports of unlawful dwelling in those residents
Yeah.
is followed up by
Squatters, yeah.
the RCMP, and then followed up with the property owner in order to take action to fortify the building.
Yeah. And I believe the RCMP are notified of the situation. Well, Corporal Painter, will the whole staff there with just doing checks with the residents, right?
Well, they would, in instances where it's a report of people squatting,
Yeah.
they would attend to clear the building. And then the property owner, and then if, in the absence of the action by the property owner, the town would board up the building,
Yep.
fortify it to prevent people from getting back in again.
Yep.
So any other questions in relation to the fire company calls? Okay, Your Worship, hearing none, that will conclude my report for this month.
Oh, thank you, Councillor Dowling. We'll move to planning, right? Planning and Development Heritage. We have 4 planners here tonight, so we're well stocked.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Appreciate you moving this up so we can deal with some of our guests who are present with us this evening. The Planning Development Heritage meeting minutes from March 31st are there. You'll note, and I'll just make a brief comment on that meeting. We ran rather long on that meeting, so I want to extend a sincere appreciation to the volunteers on Planning and Heritage, just Planning Board on that one, because certainly it's a testament to their dedication that they weren't complaining. It was me that was complaining about that. So well done to them. And further, I am told by our planning staff that we can expect more of the same, I guess, over the next couple of months as a result of a very high workload from our planning staff, and as a result of it being the construction season and being the planning season, and it's an exciting thing. So I expect you will see fairly loaded agendas from planning over the next couple of months. So for all of those planning fans out there amongst our tens of viewers on social media platforms, you're very much in luck. And I'm sure my fellow councillors would rejoice as well in knowing that they have many planning resolutions to sink their teeth into over the next little while. So without further ado, I would direct your attention to 12C, which is now 12C, Resolution PH 007-2025. As a warm-up resolution for this evening, it's What's the Scoop Incorporated requesting a special permit use for temporary commercial use being a food trailer. This is a requirement currently under our current planning regime for a public meeting as a result of the intended use. The next item on our agenda will deal with this issue in a more substantive fashion, but based upon the timing and based upon the requirement for What's the Scoop Incorporated, it has to be now. So it's moved by myself as Chair of Planning, and it reads as follows. Whereas an application has been received from Craig Murphy on behalf of What's the Scoop Incorporated to operate Ken's Island Fries food trailer, a temporary commercial use located at 20 Irving Avenue, PID 398693, which is a special permit use within the Mason Road commercial zone, where the Mason Road core area design standards are in effect. Whereas pursuant to section 13.5.1 sub B in the zoning and development bylaw number 45, council shall ensure that property owners within 61 meters or 200 feet of the subject property are notified in writing and asked to provide their comments, and ensure that a public meeting be held to allow residents to provide their input before making a decision. Be it resolved that a public meeting be held on Wednesday, April the 23rd, 2025 at 7 p.m. in order to provide an opportunity for the applicant to present the the proposed use to residents and obtain their input regarding this special permit use. This resolution bears the recommendation of Planning Development Heritage Committee discussed at a meeting held on March 31st, 2025. So, Your Worship, that is the motion. I'll ask you for a seconder at this time.
Need a seconder?
I can second it.
Councillor Chandler. Okay, discussion.
Is this where it sits now?
Yes.
That we approved last year?
We did, but because of the nature of our bylaw right now, it has to be, it can only be for a specified period of time. Now, again, we will be dealing with mobile vendors later on the agenda, or at least for first reading. It's just, it's the letter of the law, and they do have to apply. And in a normal course, we might have suggested perhaps waiting until the mobile vendors bylaw is in place, but because of the timing of their season, they do have to get going, and certainly that's appreciated and understood. So that's why this sits outside of that other regime that we're contemplating.
Any other discussion? Okay, the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
So again, appreciate, just for a public meeting at this point in time, it is the process. We want to move this, obviously, because of their season with all due haste. So thank you for that. Next one, 12D, Resolution PH 008-2025. This is Concord Properties Limited, Kelly Heights Phase 3 revision to their proposed subdivision, covering PIDs 882084 and 897124, being a 25-lot preliminary subdivision approval. It's moved by myself as Chair of Planning. Reads as follows. Whereas an application has been received from Concord Properties Limited to revise the third phase of the Kelly Heights subdivision, located on parcel numbers 882084 and 897124, which is approximately 12 acres in total area, into 25 total building lots within the low-density residential and medium-density residential zones. And whereas each of the proposed lots meet the minimum lot standards, except those with a reduced frontage along a curve, which may be permitted per section 4.3.1 sub n, as said lots have safe street access and meet the minimum frontage at the front building line. And whereas preliminary servicing and stormwater management plans have been submitted, showing the extension of municipal water and sanitary sewer in a provincially owned public road with a mountable curb and gutter. Whereas comments obtained from the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure indicate that a connection to Mason Road is needed for the subdivision. The Zoning and Development Bylaw number 45 and official plan also support the road connection. As such, condition 7 has been added to the resolution. Whereas the revised plan shows the same green space areas to satisfy the parkland dedication requirement as in the original preliminary approvals, totaling 1.69 acres, which is 14% of the total area of Phase 3. Due to the proximity of existing playgrounds, the locations have been approved by the Recreation Department, provided these are used as natural areas only. Be it resolved that preliminary subdivision approval be granted to an application received from Concord Properties Limited to revise the third phase of the existing approved subdivision, PH 001-21, known as Kelly Heights, located on parcel numbers 882084, 897124, which is 12 acres approximately in total area, into 25 total building lots in accordance with the following conditions. 1. Conformance with the revised development plan Phase 3, Option 3, showing lot number 92 as a 3-unit townhouse, which is prepared by CBCL Limited, number 192627, drawing number C04, issued for review on November the 8th, 2024. 2, that the proposed green space areas of 0.169 acres, or 14% of the total area, as shown on the revised development plan, be maintained as natural areas or trails and deeded to the town of Stratford as parkland dedication to satisfy section 4.9 of the bylaw. 3, that a stormwater management plan be designed by a licensed engineer using low-impact development guidelines to be approved by both the Department of Transportation and the town. 4, that an overall grading plan be designed by a licensed engineer to set the finished floor and pad elevations for each of the lots, elevations, and drainage structures for each lot, and any major drainage corridors to be constructed by the developer and approved by the town. 5, that an erosion and sedimentation control plan be designed by a licensed engineer using the town's erosion and sedimentation control guidelines to be approved by both DTI and the town. 6, that all public roads shall be designed in accordance with the provincial road standards of DTI, and that a subdivision road agreement shall be executed between the developer, DTI, and the town. 7, that a road connection shall be made from the future extension of Goldsmith Row to the Mason Road per comments obtained from DTI. 8, that the sanitary sewer and water system shall be designed in accordance with the Stratford Utility Corporation servicing standards, and that a utility agreement shall be executed along with the payment of all applicable capital contribution fees required by the Stratford Utility Corporation. 9, that the developer shall enter into a subdivision agreement with the town to be registered to the property at the cost of the developer. 10, that the developer makes an agreement with Canada Post and meets Canada Post's requirements for establishing community mailboxes in new subdivisions. 11, that all relative provisions should be relevant provisions of the town of Stratford zoning development bylaw number 45 are met. And 12, that preliminary approval shall be valid for a period of 3 years from the date of resolution. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Planning Development Committee as discussed in a meeting held on March 31st, 2025.
And seconder by Councillor Jackson. Okay, discussion.
So I think Ms. Kennedy's here. So what I might do, my fellow councillors, Ms. Sarah Kennedy is present with us this evening from planning. She has done an extreme amount of work on this file. And to do this proposed resolution justice, I'm going to call upon her to just try to present an overview of exactly what, why these changes are being made and some of the rationale behind it.
Sure. Thank you, Councillor McDonald. So Wendy, I might get you to flip to attachment A-1, the aerial view.
Yeah, bring that up.
Just so that everybody knows kind of where we're speaking of. The phase 3 of Kelly Heights is outlined in red. Everything to the left of the dashed yellow line is the R2 zone, and then anything to the right of the dashed line is to the R1 zone. There's been a couple of iterations of this plan, so I might just jump to the current one. So that would be attachment 8A-4.
This is the revised one?
Yes.
Okay. There we go, some color.
Perfect. And so everything outlined in that pink is phase 3. And so as you can see kind of where that, where the lot narrows up exactly where the mouse is, that's the R1 zone portion. So only single dwellings are proposed in that portion. And then the light blue lots are proposed to be semi-detached dwellings. And then the kind of darker blue is proposed to be 3-unit townhouses. The green space layout, as mentioned in the report, is the exact same as what was originally proposed. It's just a different unit mix that they're proposing to proceed with for this phase.
Thank you. If I could keep you there,
Yeah.
I might have some questions
Sure.
for you. So from what I understand, Ms. Kennedy, so it would certainly appear, at least from the layout, that there's some consideration paid to keeping the single unit dwellings on the outside of the proposed phase and then densification towards the middle.
Yeah, exactly. The original plan as well, kind of everything south to Goldsmith Row had been flipped originally, but we had requested that the developer flip them so that singles can abut singles in the existing phases, and those 3 units can still abut the existing 3 units as well.
Very good. And if you could just highlight with the mouse, we'll put you on the spot, Ms. Watts, what part of this proposed road is the new extension proposed?
So it's Goldsmith Row is the extension, so the part that's outlined in pink of Goldsmith is the new road.
It's all new?
Yes,
Yeah,
and
okay.
it's projected to go straight up to Mason Road.
Okay. And so, in phase, and this is my last question, phase 3, you'll note from the aerial that there appears to be a green space corridor extending to the existing parkland.
Yes.
Is there any proposals or discussions about an active transportation trail or any form of trail going through there?
I'm unsure if it's supposed to be kind of like a graveled AT path.
Okay.
But I know the discussion had originally been to, first of all, preserve some of the trees on the lot, and also to allow that kind of active transportation connection, whether it be a hiking trail or a gravel path.
Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Councillor Dowling?
One in relation to public consultation, just wondering if you can give us a quick overview of what was involved with that and what the results of that consultation might have been.
So for the preliminary subdivision approval, which is the resolution in front of us, there was no public consultation. So any subdivision that has the extension of sewer mains and water mains and public roads need to be brought to council. There are 2 more upcoming applications that are a part of this subdivision, and they had involved public consultation, like sending out letters and having a public meeting. The purpose of splitting these applications into 3 different ones is so that if one portion of the application were to be appealed, the remaining part of the application can proceed.
So I'm getting ahead of myself in relation to the public consultation. And that's because there's no actual change in zoning.
There's no changes in zoning, and there's no conditional uses or special permit uses as part of this particular resolution in front of you.
Thank you. We'll revisit the question as we get into the next resolutions, perhaps, or I'm sure Councillor McDonald has addressed them anyway.
Sounds good.
Any other questions? No. Just a question, Sarah, with the curb, like active transportation, is that like a sidewalk when they have the curb? They're trying to, in that area in Goldsmith and so on?
So the Department of Transportation had altered their street requirements.
Yeah.
And so what they're now requesting for the majority of the subdivisions that will be proposed in Stratford is to have what's called a mountable curb and gutter system. So instead of having an open ditch, the pavement extends right to the curb, and then there's kind of a gradual mount that you can drive right over with your vehicle.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how the street will be designed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just hear people talking about on the other side there, the streets are narrow, and they're looking for a sidewalk or something to walk on and so on. So are these a little wider?
I think they are a little bit wider in
Yeah.
the paved area anyway,
Yeah.
so it's less gravel and more pavement.
Yeah. And is there distance ascertained, does Swallow Drive have to be connected?
It is a separate.
Separate issue?
It's a separate issue, yes.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be nice to have it, but anyways, no, it's going into Mason, yeah. Okay. So the question's on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, right across? Okay. There you go, Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, 12E, which is, and you'll note, and hopefully Councillor Dowling didn't give away the surprise too much here, but 12E and F are going to be somewhat companion resolutions to 12D, but they were all, I guess, conditional somewhat on this first resolution receiving approval. So 12E, this is,
Yeah, 12E, one says conditional use, the other is special permit, right?
that's correct.
Yep.
Yep. So 12E is PH 009-2025, Concord Properties Limited, Kelly Heights Phase 3 revision, a portion of PID 882084. This is a conditional use seeking 1 4-unit townhouse lot in a 25-lot subdivision. It's moved by myself as Chair of Planning and Heritage. Reads as follows. Whereas an application has been received from Concord Properties Limited to replace 1 3-unit townhouse lot with a 4-unit townhouse lot on the proposed lot 92 within the 3rd phase of the Kelly Heights subdivision, which is a portion of PID 882084, within the medium-density residential R2 zone. Townhouse dwellings, which are up to 6 dwelling units, can be up to 40% of the block, or a conditional use, with this application representing 5.3% of the block. And whereas the proposed lot far exceeds the minimum lot area, however, as the lot is located on the outside of a curve in the street, the frontage of the lot is 4 meters or 13 feet less than the minimum standard. This configuration may be permitted per section 4.3.1 sub n, as said lot has safe street access and meets the minimum frontage at the front building line. And whereas pursuant to section 11.3.3 of the Town of Stratford Zoning and Development Law number 45, prior to the issuance of a development permit for a conditional use, council shall ensure that property owners that directly abut the subject property are notified in writing and asked to provide their comments. And whereas on February 14th, 2025, 30 notification letters were sent to abutting property owners. As of March the 12th, 2025, which was the deadline for comments, 2 letters were received, representing 6.6% of property owners notified, 1 in support of the application and 1 contrary. Be it resolved that approval be granted to an application received from Concord Properties Limited for a conditional use to replace 1 3-unit townhouse lot with a 4-unit townhouse lot on the proposed lot number 92, located within the 3rd phase of the Kelly Heights subdivision, in accordance with the following conditions. 1, conformance with the revised development plan phase 3, option 3, prepared by CBCL Limited, number 192627, drawing number C04, issued for review on November the 8th, 2024. 2, that all other relevant provisions of the Town of Stratford zoning and development bylaw number 45 are met. 3, that the approval shall be valid for a period of 3 years from the date of resolution. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Planning, Development, and Heritage Committee as discussed at a meeting held March 31st, 2025.
Okay, I'm looking for a seconder. Seconded by Councillor Jackson. Okay, it's on the floor now, discussion. Anybody want to step up?
I might just begin.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's totally fine. I just have 2 questions for Ms. Kennedy. So the first one, Ms. Kennedy, is that I appreciate the definition of a block is somewhat of a term of art as well as term of law. And so I'm just wondering if you could explain to everybody what block we're talking about when we're talking about the block here because of this certain percentage allowed in a certain zone.
Curb.
Yeah, so for this specific application, we did define the block as all of the proposed lots. So within the R1 zone, within the R2 zoned portion of this subdivision, there are 19 total lots in that just R2 zone. And so we've been using those 19 lots as the definition of the block. And so there's 1 lot proposed as a 4-unit townhouse out of the 19 proposed lots.
Okay. And secondly, in terms of the commentary received from the public in response to the notification letters, I appreciate the one in support speaks for itself. The one that's contrary-minded, there's a number of concerns highlighted in that with respect to noting that there are no garages, that they have a concern about the parking situation, that it will increase pollution of vehicles as a result of the increased vehicle traffic. As well, there appears to be a concern about a disproportionate number of multifamily dwellings in phase 3. In terms of turning our minds to this, has planning staff engaged in any mitigation or anything of that nature?
Yeah, so we do get a lot of comments in this specific area about the number of vehicles and kind of parking on the street. On-street parking in the earlier phases of the subdivisions has been an issue. We have been looking at kind of installing no on-street parking signs. And I know that we did have a really, really good discussion at Planning Board about no parking signs. And so we had kind of considered adding them as a condition in some of kind of the problem areas just to kind of right off the bat attack that parking issue. However, the mayor did raise an excellent point of what happens for the one-off kind of occasions of if there's a birthday party or something like that. So rather than kind of over-regulating, we've chosen to kind of, or the resolutions are worded in a way where it's more reactionary. So if there is a problem, then we can certainly take a look at it. So on-street parking has been kind of, that's kind of how we would mitigate that. One of the other discussions that we did have for the kind of amount of hardscaping required for some of these units was to kind of maybe look at a future amendment to the bylaw that would restrict the amount of hardscaping in the front yard, as well as maybe look at some planting requirements just to kind of break up that vehicular look and feel. And it might help kind of blend it into those existing neighborhoods as well. And then the last comment that we did get was that there was a disproportionate amount of this comment, this resident did say of multifamily dwellings. They did clarify that they mean specifically 3 and 4 units. In the minutes, there is a pie chart that kind of gives the percentages of each dwelling type. And so in phase 1 and phase 2, there are 50% of the lots are single dwellings. In phase 3, 48% of the lots are single dwellings. And then in the phase 1 and 2, there are 33% of semi-detached and 24% in phase 3. So there's about a 10% variation. And as well, the same thing for 3, 4, and 5 units. It's at 17% in the existing phases. And with the new phase, then the phase 3 would be at 28%. So there's not too much of a difference of variation in between those 3 and 4 dwelling units versus the rest of the dwelling types.
Yeah. And so just to follow up on that, so just so I understand, and I understand that, you know, Kelly Heights, as you said, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, but it's all been contemplated as part of one singular project that's existed for a long time, and the idea has always been to infill towards phase 3 with a view to densification towards the middle of that whole project.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Questions?
Just follow-ups in relation to what we were provided with. In relation to the hardscaping, understandably, bylaw amendments aren't likely to be in place prior to this project. But I understand staff are going to work closely with the developer to encourage the developer to remain consistent with the neighborhood, so that we're not looking at that kind of worst-case scenario of a parking lot on the front of the building. So we appreciate staff's initiative in that regard. And the other is in relation to the on-street parking. We had some considerable discussion at committee on that, as you had mentioned. And, there are balances that have to be come into play. But we do have a precedent, fairly recent precedent as well, within the community, whereby if parking becomes overly problematic in a particular area, then we can and will implement no parking for sections of a road or an entire road. So, I mean, the worst case scenario, if, parking becomes overwhelming for the residents, then unnecessarily so, then there is action that can be taken on behalf of council to mitigate that. So just throw that out there. That was part of the discussion that we had as well.
Councillor Jackson?
Yes, if I can, just to pick up on Councillor Dowling's point around the parking. When we implemented the changes in Briar Jones, it was an instant fix, and I certainly appreciate what the mayor is saying in the idea of birthdays and kind of one-off occurrences, but I think they could be handled with some flexibility on the part of enforcement, but go with the general rule. I'd encourage us to implement that. It's already an issue in the subdivision. If we can set the ground rules that you need to be respectful about your parking and stay off lawns and all that stuff, I'd really encourage us to use those tools which we have in other areas, especially Briar Jones, not only for to be consistent with what we've done there, but to really negate that question that we do get at every one of these planning on every one of these planning items about bringing up bad examples of parking, and I think you can always take them out, but I would encourage us to maybe think again about that and maybe put them in place and just ask for a little bit of flexibility on the enforcement side if there is a one-off occurrence. But I fully support the resolution. Thanks.
I just got one thing to add to Councillor Jackson's point there. So I think we've encouraged builders, especially with townhouses, especially when there's 3 or 2 or 3 together, whatever, is to obviously not have the 1.5 driveways, because I've never seen half a car yet. And to have double driveways also. You know, I'm interested to know what other municipalities are doing, because it's not just Stratford. It seems to be all over, you know, Prince Edward Island especially. I can't talk for other provinces, but it seems to be quite a thing, and it does come down to a safety issue also. As you talk about Briar Jones, if an ambulance or a fire truck ever had to go down Briar Jones, they'd have a really hard time turning around or you know, coming back from that area. And we're seeing more and more of these cars parked on yards and lawns, and knowing beforehand what we can do. And I believe, I agree with Councillor Jackson too, is you don't have a heavy hand on this, but you know, I do believe that having separate driveways and not having just one big paved part in the front is important, to have 2 separate driveways, because that keeps it also from being you know, a mini car lot in a townhouse. So I think we really have to talk to our builders and have, if there's 2 townhouses or 3, you have 3 separate double driveways. Part of the problem comes when you have these 2 driveways, if it's a double or triple, when they become just one big pad of pavement, that creates a lot of problems right there. So I think we have to be a little bit more proactive than we are, and I think we have to make this really not an issue, but we have to be a little more poignant on this, and you know, and have it regulated in a way that that everyone knows what we're expected and what we're going to be policing in the long run when this comes, because it absolutely is hard to have our police force or have anyone coming and looking at saying, okay, there's no parking in the street and we need to deal with this time after time. And you know, the first few times it's just going to be a warning, it's going to be a warning, it's just going to be a real headache. We have to take some of the headache out, and we have to be a little more, use our brains a little bit more here, a little more proactive setting this up, I think. That's just my thoughts.
If I could comment, the headache, and this is a whole other conversation, but as we make improvements to public transit, then we start to mitigate some of these problems, because
That's
I
right.
think in
Good
most
point.
cases, we are quite responsible when it comes to assigning parking. I've been very vocal about it. Oftentimes, we err on the side of caution. So I think the reality is that we have been mindful of the parking requirements, and we're doing our best, but the reality is that more people often live under a roof than we may anticipate, I think, is the actual reality. Maybe? I don't know. One could speculate. Have there been any considerations given to no overnight parking?
Not for this specific resolution. I don't even know where I'd begin to have that discussion.
I just wonder, like, if there's, like, we hear about parking and being a challenge, are the cars owned by residents? Are they owned by visitors? Is it continual, or is it, you know, is there ebb and flow to it? I just wonder if we're monitoring those specifics as opposed to kind of anecdotal parking on the street is a problem.
Been my experience since I've been to town of Stratford, since I come back.
You lost your hair, you lost your hair there.
I had. It's on the floor now. That there has been situations where we've had complaints with excessive parking, and I've addressed a few of those. And you're right, there is a lot of people living under one roof in some locations, in some cases many locations, so it makes it very difficult to police and regulate, actually. With the Briar Jones, one of the problems there was it took quite a while to get that thing completed, actually finished, so it caused some problems there. The other issue is too that some of the parking garages are being used for storage areas, so you've lost a parking space. So there's a number of elements going into all this that we have to look at more closely in order to properly regulate as we go forward in either the bylaw and official plan, or just how we have procedures and how we view site plans and that type of thing. So There is a challenge, no doubt about it. And with the increasing population, you're going to get situations like that, and rentals are going to be a different animal than they've had been in the past. So I can't give a definitive way to deal with this. Even overnight parking is a challenge, because if you have a relative coming over that wants to stay the night, how do you penalize them for that? So it's just a very sensitive issue. It can be very practical in some ways and very challenging in others. So I think it's going to take some good discussion, and as Gordy had mentioned, it's good to look at other locations, see if they're finding other ways that are proven to work better than what we're trying to do ourselves. And that'll be discussed in the official plan and bylaw review as well, so maybe that'll help us going forward.
I do think it's good practice to look towards other regions. At the same time, it's not always apples to apples. If they have, you know, more extensive trail systems or connected pathways or increased transit options, et cetera,
Right.
that allow people to move differently than we are right now.
I agree, and the separation of driveways is a critical one, to have green space in between there too, to get rid of that parking lot profile look to it, so.
And I agree, Councillor Chandler, also, transit is a large part of the answer to this, is having a better transit system, upgraded transit system that meets the need of our residents. And, you know, provincial government's got to do a lot better job with their infrastructure. Also, you know, I don't blame a lot of the residents that have multiple cars. Obviously, they can't, you know, there's a financial part here that's causing a strain. So we have to look at what we do as municipal and provincial government to support all our residents and make this work. So, you know, looking at other places, trying to improve our transit, you know, we're way behind this problem. This problem's gotten ahead of us, and it's going to progressively get ahead of us. We have to start really concentrating on this and finding an answer, because it's really starting to grow, and I'm getting more people talking to me about this, as are probably other councillors, and so we really need to look into this more. And you've done a great job, as everybody in the staff has. We just need to somehow find a way to you know, work at this, you know, continually. So thank you.
If I could, I agree with everything all of my fellow councillors have said. I just think in this specific situation, I do recall there was a situation where we as a council, once something was brought to our attention in a formal manner, we did move fairly quickly, and town staff moved quickly, and our law enforcement partners were very quick as well to get on board with the enforcement of parking in a specific area of the town. And I think that should guide us in this particular instance, in that if it does become a problem, we don't let it become a problem, is the bottom line. To Councillor Dowling's point, not on this resolution but on the last one, in terms of incorporation of some of these principles into our official plan, into our bylaw, I think it's absolutely merited, and I think that bit of buffer time will allow as well some evolution, hopefully, of active transportation, of public transportation, things of that nature. So I do think we as a council need to be incredibly mindful, and clearly we all are, clearly, that there's no doubt of that. And so we'll move quickly, I expect, to deal with any issue, because it's not just, you know, it's not just an aesthetic thing about keeping cars off the roads, but I'm sure you can all appreciate and understand as well that it's a safety issue too, that if there's cars lining up both sides of the roads, if kids are running out from behind a parked car, it's just a massive safety issue. And I don't think anybody wants anything to do with that, either on the aesthetic side, but also on the safety side. So we will absolutely make sure to address that, would be my hope. Yeah.
No, I agree with everybody. It's looking at it as a multi-use subdivision, and that's what multi-use is: singles, doubles there, and townhouses, and so on. So it's a mixed use and multi-use. But same time, with parking and everything else, we just got to put tools in place with the signs and so on, and enforcement, and one parking spot per townhouse. And like we did in Briar Jones, just, you know, ticket and possibly have to tow. So I know my former job, that's all we did was ticket, a couple warnings, and tow, and then come back a week later, there's nobody on the road. But I mean, I think, but we'll just do it in a nice way, like putting letters together, door knocks, and we did with Briar Jones and so on, and that's. But with the parking comes with the growing pains of becoming a city. We're growing so much, right? And that's some of the issues we would have to deal with, and And this is not the first time the RCMP dealt with this problem, so. But anyways, that's my comment. So, motion's on the floor. Okay, the question is asked. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you.
Third in a series here, dealing with the last contingent resolution. This is resolution PH 010-2025 from Concord Properties Limited. Again, considering Kelly Heights Phase 3 revision, being portion of PIDs, excuse me, 882084 and 897124. This is a special permit use, proposing 6 stacked semi-detached lots in a 25 lot
Can we
subdivision.
pause just to have a dance for a second?
I could have let that go for a bit. That's okay. It's moved by myself as Chair of Planning and Heritage. It reads as follows. Whereas an application has been received from Concord Properties Limited for a special permit use to replace 6 semi-detached dwelling lots with 6 stacked semi-detached lots on proposed lots 90, 96, 97, 103, 107, and 108 within the 3rd phase of the Kelly Heights subdivision, encompassing a portion of PIDs 882084 and 897124 within the medium-density residential R2 zone. Stacked semi-detached dwellings are up to 40% of the block are a special permit use within this application representing 31.6% of the block. And whereas the proposed lots far exceed minimum lot requirements and in accordance with section 8.16.1, this application complements the scale of existing phases of the newly developed subdivision and includes buffering between the established neighborhood near the Mason Roads by means of green space, vacant lots, and new like uses such as single dwelling lots. As per the comments obtained from the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, there are no traffic concerns associated with the additional units. Whereas pursuant to sections 8.16.1 sub D and E in the Zoning and Development Bylaw number 45, council shall ensure that property owners within 61 meters, 200 feet of the subject property are notified in writing and asked to provide their comments, and ensure that a public meeting be held to allow residents to provide their input before making a decision. And whereas on February 14, 2025, 48 notification letters were sent to property owners within that subject area of the subject property, and a public meeting was held on March 5th, 2025 at 7 p.m. This public meeting was also live streamed on the town's Facebook and YouTube pages. As of the deadline for comments, March 12, 2025, 3 letters were received, representing 6.3% of property owners. 1 was in support of the application and 2 were contrary, mainly citing concerns regarding vehicle clutter and on-street parking, which may be mitigated with no parking signage in the future if needed. Be it resolved that approval be granted to an application received from Concord Properties Limited for a special permit use to replace 6 semi-detached dwelling lots with 6 stacked semi-detached dwelling lots on proposed lots 90, 96, 97, 103, 107, and 108 within the 3rd phase of the Kelly Heights subdivision in accordance with the following conditions. 1, conformance with the revised development plan phase 3, option 3, prepared by CBCL Limited, number 192627, drawing number C04, issued for review on November the 8th, 2024. 2, that all other relevant provisions of the Town of Stratford Zoning and Development Bylaw number 45 are met. 3, that the approval shall be valid for a period of 3 years from the date of resolution. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Planning, Development, and Heritage Committee as discussed at a meeting held on March 31st, 2025.
Seconder? Councillor Cox? Okay, discussion.
So, Ms. Kenny, I'm wondering if we could just
Yeah, go ahead with that.
bring back up that site map and just if you could highlight for us exactly which lots we're considering.
90, 96, 97, yeah, right there.
That's correct.
Thank you, Wendy. Yeah, so the stacked semi-detached lots, the proposed lots are outlined in red. There are 3 kind of abutting the larger green space, and then the remaining 3 are on the opposite side of the road. So that is kind of the placement. They are proposing to just replace the semi-detached dwellings with stacked semi-detached dwellings. So these lots are double the minimum requirements for lot area and frontage. And so they are good candidates for meeting the kind of 3 tests that are required to approve a special permit use. The first being that it complements the scale of the existing adjacent development. There are 3 and 4 units in the first 2 phases of the subdivision. So it does fit the kind of newer Kelly Heights subdivision. And there is quite a bit of buffering in between the stacked semi-detached lots and the established neighborhood up near Swallow, Nightingale, and Mason Road. So there is kind of a lot of vacant parcels abutting the established neighborhood as well as that green space. And then so the first one was complements the scale of the existing neighborhood. The second is that it has sufficient buffer area. And then the third is that it doesn't cause any hardship, like excessive noise, traffic congestion, hours of operation, or other potential nuisances. Because they are residential uses proposed within a residential subdivision, we don't expect that there would be any excessive noise outside of what is expected in a residential area. The town does have the noise and nuisance bylaw. If there are any noise complaints associated with those buildings. The traffic congestion is another. So the town sent this plan to Brett Wallace, who works with the Department of Transportation. He's commented that there are no expected traffic concerns with this particular application for the proposed additional units. And then we get back to kind of that parking issue. So part of the benefit of the stacked semi-detached dwelling is that when council had approved the original amendment, you had erred on the side of caution to allow for 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit. So each of these buildings will need 8 parking spaces. And then again, we're at, if this does become an issue, if parking does become an issue in the area, we can put up those no parking spaces or no parking signs to mitigate that issue if needed. So part of this application required that property owners within 200 feet of the property were notified in writing and invited to the public meeting. A public meeting was held, and after the deadline, we received 3 letters, and so that represents about 6% of all of those who were notified. There were 48 unique letters that were sent out, and we did get 3 responses. A lot of similar issues to kind of the conditional use, mainly due to kind of parking and the vehicles on the street, and that's kind of, those were a summary of the concerns that we received. If anybody has any questions, feel free to let me know.
So, Ms. Kennedy, just one question as relates to this specific resolution, and I might draw your attention. So it's in the letter package that had been sent out to the residents. It's the last page of it, and it shows a proposed plan for each of the proposed stacked semi-detached. With the, again, I appreciate that there's no specific development plan for these, but the proposed parking plan, for instance.
Yeah, let me just pull it up on the screen here. Yes, so at the very last page of that one, I believe, I hope. Yeah, that's the page that we're looking for. So these are conceptual site plans that we had requested the developer to prepare. Essentially, the purpose of doing this was to show kind of the approximate size of a typical stacked semi-detached dwelling, and to show just a very basic layout of parking. The developer of these lots will not be tied to this configuration, and so there could be kind of more of an angled approach to it to not have that stacked look to it, but it was mainly just to show kind of how big the lots are and kind of what your setbacks might look like with kind of a standard building size on it.
So, goes without saying, these are fairly large lots, all things considered.
Yes, they are double the minimum requirement.
Okay, all right. Okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Go ahead, Ron. Councillor Downey.
Just perhaps you could explain the difference. Originally, it was proposed for 6 semi-detached dwelling. Now they're requesting 6 stacked semi-detached. Just in essence, what's the difference between the two?
Yeah, so a semi-detached is 2 units arranged side by side, and a stacked semi-detached is 2 units wide and 2 units high. So essentially, it should, at the end of the day, look like a semi-detached dwelling, just a 2-story semi-detached dwelling, and there will be 4 doors on the front typically instead of the 2. It's just kind of a more convenient way to arrange a little bit more of a gentle density in the area.
And so footprint-wise, it's essentially the same.
Yes.
It is becoming more and more popular, I understand, around the country, and PEI in particular. More and more developers are looking at this type of approach. Is this consistent or inconsistent with the neighborhood overall?
It is certainly consistent with the neighborhood due to there already being 4-unit dwellings in the existing phases. There's also a mixture of 1-story and 2-story buildings in the first 2 phases as well. So I don't think that these ones would look out of place in the area at all.
And all the other discussion points are relevant here in relation to hardscaping and what might be done bylaw-wise down the road. There's no zoning change involved in any of this.
No.
No.
And the parking, as we mentioned before, there's potential for mitigation if that
Yep.
becomes an issue. And staff will work with the developer in relation to the hardscaping to minimize impact from an aesthetics perspective. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So the parking itself would be going to like 4 driveways to 8 driveways?
So I might get you to scroll down to the other attachment again if I could.
Or wider driveways? Like you're permitted 8 vehicles, right?
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
minimum requirement of parking spaces is 8 vehicles.
Yeah.
So they could do it like they have it there for 2 double-wide driveways. There would be enough room on some of the lots, judging by the area, to have a small sliver of grass in between separating each driveway. Or to kind of prevent that stacked arrangement, they could kind of do an angle where the driveway would veer out towards the sides, and then you can kind of park at a bit of a V, I guess you
Okay.
would say. So there are multiple options for the lot developer if these are to be approved. And they will have to meet the parking requirements in the bylaw per section 10.
Okay, thank you.
Could the developer still put down a pavement pad there? You said there, that hopefully there's a bit of room for like a green space between the, but could they put down just a square pad of pavement?
So right now, there is nothing in the bylaw that prevents a unified driveway, provided that they're not disrupting the the path of drainage. So having that grass separation in between the driveways does help stormwater as an extra absorption material.
Yeah,
But you could shed the water to the side and have it follow the sidelines, those side property lines. We can certainly encourage the developer, once we get that permit submission, to kind of have more green space area or reconfigure the driveway, but it wouldn't be tied to this specific resolution.
because like to me personally, I think that's where some of our problems stem from, is where you end up having cars this way, that way, that way, and then aesthetic-wise, people in the area, like, it just looks messy, it just looks it looks off to residents, even though it may be functional, but to me, I'm just speaking personally from people I've talked to, having a green space between these is very pivotal. I really think we need to start looking at that a little bit closer and putting it into down on paper, you know, dotting the i's, crossing the t's as much as we can. I just think having the paved pad there, it may start to find first, but it adds to problems later on down the line.
I certainly agree, and we can certainly encourage that. Another benefit to the layout of these lots is that there's no reduced frontage from being around a curve. I think parts of where
Yeah.
we're seeing that occurrence of the front yard being paved is
Right.
where it is a smaller front yard because the
Yeah.
lot is located around a curve.
Right.
So by having just a street frontage, there is that extra room to play with.
But like, I can add one last thing. I just think for us, I think we're a really nice community, we're really nice people, but we really have no bylaws or policies about how many trees they got to put back on, or how much shrubbery they got to put back on, how much.
Working on it, Gordy.
What?
We're working on it.
I know,
Councillor.
but it's been almost 2.5 years now. I've been hyping this, and it just seems like, I know we're working on it, but it's just like, shucks, could you do this? Could you do this? Shucks, can you move some paint? Shucks, would you mind? Like, I just think, and no offense to you guys or the planning committee or anybody, town hall.
lot of pressures.
This is all of us, and this is every community, by the way. This isn't just Stratford. I just think we need to start saying we want some trees back, we want some shrubbery back, we want a little more green space on the front yard here. Like, I just think that's something we gotta start. And not saying we hope they do, and no offense to you again, you do a wonderful job, as does everybody here. Like, top props to everybody here. But I just really think we gotta start nailing a few things down and not be so scared like we used to be. I don't hear this much anymore. People saying, oh, we'll just take our bill to Cornwall. I don't think that's as much now, or to Charlottetown or whatever. I do think we gotta start like putting it in and saying, no, this is how much you're giving us 10% back trees, or you're giving us 10%, whatever it is, and you're dividing the two driveways with a green space in the middle. I really personally feel, and from people I've talked to in our riding, there's a big feel for that too. That aesthetically, let's set these things up and get some of the green stuff back on lots. So, sorry, I'm off my soapbox now. Thanks.
Quick comments,
Yep.
quick comments.
So I just might,
Go ahead.
is there,
You go ahead.
Mr. McKeegan, Ms. Kennedy, is there anything, or even Mr. Ruff, if he wants to pipe up over there too, is there anything even within our official plan in terms of the principles surrounding development, which would allow you as development officers, when these actually get shovels in the ground, to consider the comments of our, of council here in terms of working towards something, in terms of promoting the ideals of our official plan, in terms of having a separated driveway or promoting green space or anything of that nature? Is there anything that we could try to at least, tenuously hang our hats on in that regard?
I think from the planning perspective going forward, I mean, sound planning principles can prevail in most situations. And I've always been a believer that developers always want something in return. So there's a way to use those as trade-offs going forward. The other thing as well is that we require a site plan that has to be approved, and that approval is attached to the permit. They have to construct in accordance with that site plan. So that's strong in itself. So I'm a firm believer of sitting down with developers and strongly encouraging certain things for certain reasons. And until we have it actually in law, so to speak, we can do that. So whatever we sign off on and approve, it's on the site plan, has to be built in accordance with that site plan. So if the separation of driveways is there, and if we can encourage things like the green space in between, the planting of vegetation, and they realize that it's a give and take situation until such time, it benefit to both sides.
Okay. Thank you.
Just very quickly, I know our staff has been very busy along with the company we had engaged for development of our official plan and our bylaw review. And many things come up through public consultation and consultation with council. And we certainly had discussions on many issues on council about changes that we'd like to see. And I think it's very clear that we'd like to see within the bylaw review have added in things like that would be requirements of the developer, on behalf of the developer, in relation to berms and tree planting and aesthetics, driveway separation, that sort of thing. And you know, the challenge staff have now is to deal with those types of concerns without those documents being finalized. And I hope and I expect that we will see a lot of changes in the bylaw, and in particular the official plan in relation to zoning and density, and a lot of the issues that you know, arise now wouldn't be an issue if the end result is as we hope it to be. I know that sounds a little vague, but you know, there's been a tremendous amount of discussion on a lot of topics, and you know, if we only had everything in place now, it'd certainly be a whole lot easier for staff, a whole lot easier for developers, and a whole lot easier for residents to understand. So anyway, I guess my point being we have certain expectations in relation to the outcomes of the official plan and bylaw review that might address a lot of the concerns that we're dealing with on a regular basis, including here tonight.
Any other questions? Okay, the questions on the floor. All in favor? Okay, that's carried.
Thank you. I appreciate the discussion. I do expect a lot of these comments and questions that we're circling around will carry forward within the reviews as discussed by Councillor Dowling. So next, 12, I believe, G. Yes, 12G, mobile vendor bylaw, number 55. So this is resolution PH 011-2025. The implementation of a new bylaw into our, I guess, legislative arsenal, number 55. This is for first reading. It's moved by myself as Chair of Planning, Development and Heritage. And it reads as follows. Whereas the Town of Stratford Planning Department is proposing a new mobile vendors bylaw, which would permit the sale of prepared refreshments by the way of a mobile vending unit. Whereas the mobile vendors bylaw was previously drafted and advertised as a street vendors bylaw, it was changed to the new name out of comments from the province and due to locations of vendors to be located in parks and private parcels and not within streets. And whereas in accordance with the Stratford Zoning Development Bylaw number 45, notice of this amendment application and public meeting occurred through the placement of an advertisement in the local Guardian newspaper on 2 separate editions, being February the 22nd and March 1st, and notice of the public meeting was also posted on the town's Facebook page. Whereas the public meeting was held on March 5th, 2025 at 6 p.m., MRSB Consulting, who drafted the new bylaw, presented to those in attendance. 2 attendees stood up and asked questions of the presenters. Comments were recorded in the minutes. And whereas this public meeting was live streamed on the town's Facebook pages and YouTube, and residents were given until 12 p.m. noon on March 7th, 2025 to submit their comments. Whereas planning staff received no written comments from residents or business owners, be it resolved that the Town of Stratford adopt the mobile vendors bylaw number 55, it be hereby read and approved for a first time. And this resolution bears the recommendation of the Planning, Development and Heritage Committee on March 31st, 2025.
Need a seconder? Second by Councillor Chandler. Okay, discussion.
So, Your Worship, what I might request is we do have Mr. Alex Bain and Ms. Melissa McDonald here from MRSB. I might ask them to come up, and we'll get our money's worth here. And to provide just a brief overview to council as to where it began, some of the comments and questions that you heard, and some of the changes that might have been incorporated, and where we're at now with things. I do see Mr. Carnell back there, and he looks comfortable. Great.
All right. First of all, thanks for having us here tonight.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure to work with the planning staff and communications staff over the past number of months. So we started this in August of 2024. Had some pretty extensive public and other engagement, including with other municipalities. We had a public open house that a few members of council had attended. Most recently on March 5th, we had our public meeting. So from that, the documents included in the agenda package, but there were some concerns that were identified, and since that time, they've been addressed in the most recent draft of this bylaw. So, you know, previously it had been worded that some operators may go onto the trail system in parks, and that was a concern that came up. So we said, you know, you give right of way to people using the trails. The units are to be placed off of the trails, but directly off the trails. Yeah, so that brings us here.
So, Mr. Bain, I just have two questions, and they're sort of related. In terms of the application, like the permit application scheme, I understand that it'll be planning staff who will be handling that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And in terms of what's being asked, I guess, of a proposed applicant in terms of filling out these applications, how much, like, what are we looking at here?
So it's all important, but I would say most importantly, it's a description of the items to be sold, a plan of the site, and then there's two classes. So there's a smaller class, which is one of Class A, Class B. I can't recall off the top of my head which one the smaller one is. B. And so those are more intended to be like push carts or bicycle trailers or tricycles. Then there's a larger class, which typically would be more of what you'd think of in terms of a food truck with a generator running. The different classes are permitted in different areas, and there's a map of allowable locations. But in terms of the application, it's the duration that you're looking for, which is based on your class, the type of good or service to be sold, and a map of the setup.
And then
Just, Jeff, can you just pull that up, 9B2, or I think it's one of them there?
It's one of them there.
Yeah, 6 locations on it. Come down, no. I think we're in the wrong one. Oh, there it is, okay. So there's the 6 locations. Yeah, great, thank you.
And so the second question that I had was somewhat related to the first. In terms of the fee structure, what are we looking at there?
I have it right in front of me. Can read it off. So it's by class. So Class B, there's seasonal, which is from April 1st to the end of October. The fee for that period of time is $400. Class A, there are 4 different types of permit. So there's a 1-day, if there were a special event going on, that is $75. There's an occasional permit, which is less than or equal to 30 days in duration. The fee for that is $150. Seasonal, $875, and annual is $1,500. From or following the public meeting that we had, we worked in another provision that allows people who receive a permit of smaller duration to submit kind of a subsequent application to extend that for further approval.
Okay. Great. Thank you, sir. Those are my questions for you at this time on the first reading.
Any other discussion?
I have a question question or two in regards to the appendix with the allowable areas. And obviously, just a ways back, we gave approval to the specific trailer, or whatever we call it, at What's the Scoop. So this, in this arrangement, would prevent any competition or what have you from requesting location in the parking lot, like what I know is the Home Hardware parking lot. So no other place, like no other mobile vendors could go in that area? We've had them there before.
No.
In regards
Pardon
to
me?
the commercial areas? So the commercial areas, which are highlighted in the blue areas.
Yeah.
So for commercial, the applicant of said food truck or food cart would have to have an agreement with the property owner or the commercial REIT to engage and use their property to do a food truck.
So these are just town assets? These are just town assets?
No, the green areas are the town parks.
Yeah.
The commercial, the blue are the commercial areas, so they would apply to us for a permit. And the fees would be paid to us. But they would be permitted to activate their food truck within those commercial areas.
Okay. I guess I'm confused. So Class A is the,
It's the food truck, so that would be the motorized vehicle. So we don't allow push carts in commercial areas just because we can't monitor the car parking or anybody.
okay, so and the green one allows for both?
Yes. So in regards to the green parks area, the food truck area, like the motorized, would have to be within the parkade or just around the parkade, whereas the actual food carts could go more into the open area, the parks, except for on the trails and on the boardwalk, because we don't allow any kind of wheels on the boardwalk.
So this does include that area?
Yeah.
Okay. I
So-
just am not following this map.
Yeah, it's hard to see because so the Ken Fry's, I don't have a pointer to show, but yeah, right there, that little like jut out that incorporates. So basically from Lottie Way, the new commercial property that's going on Lottie Way, all the way up to the Irving Avenue. So Ken Fry's property, what do they call them? What the Scoop property is within that area.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, yeah. We don't have a cap on how many food trucks at this time. We kind of see how it goes for the first year, but we don't prevent how many units would be in.
Our cap now is what, 3?
What for? We don't have a cap.
We don't have a cap?
No.
Okay.
So in theory, if we were to approve this and 3 different or 4 different vendors wanted to line up in the Home Hardware parking lot, they would, whatever with that,
They would have to go to the Home Hardware first.
the Home Hardware first, obviously, but
And-
it could just be a row of,
Yeah, potentially. I think that's probably something that we probably wouldn't advise to do. I know in Summerside, they created a little food truck park just so they'd have protection around them. And that might be something, say if Home Hardware was looking at 3 different trucks, they would have to create a little park that's protected for the pedestrians that are using the food trucks. And making sure that they can access that site. That is a notoriously bad parkade, so we would have to make sure there's precautions for safety in that.
And just on that point, and it's an excellent question, Councilor Chandler. You know, part of the bylaw and part of the preamble to the bylaw is that we do respect the investment that brick and mortar businesses do place into this town, certainly in terms of the revenue we derive from that, but also the investment and the public-facing nature of those types of establishments. And so, just on that point, like for instance, say if they want to, Home Hardware or conglomerate or a consortium of mobile food vendors wanted to get together to put 4 or 5 or whatever in that Home Hardware parking lot, and we have Finley's there, we have Domino's there, we have a couple of actual licensed establishments. How does our mobile vendor bylaw address that situation?
I guess that's something that we could have maybe ask for maybe notifications within that commercial area to make sure that they're.
Yeah, I think that's something that we might want to look at between first and second reading, just to make sure that,
Sure.
I think we owe a duty to those who invest in the town on a permanent basis, and we're offering a service throughout the year. So
For sure.
I want to make sure that that's respected and recognized. Yeah.
I think Jill was asking about home hardware. Does it protect the businesses in that area, like Finley's and so on?
Yeah, that's like,
Yeah.
to Council McDonald, to Council Chandler's point, we could add a notification for within with the
Yeah,
businesses adjacent to.
Okay.
Just a
Go
comment,
ahead, Ron.
Your Worship. I know this was new to Stratford as far as development of a bylaw specific to mobile vendors. We don't know as yet what the uptake's going to be. It may be tremendous, it may not be. But it's good to have the capability of providing some guidance. I know staff had put a lot of effort in as long as they're along with the MRSB to do best practice and come up with a bylaw for us to consider. And I would just say, not to oversimplify, that bylaws can be amended if issues arise in relation to them, specifically in relation to the park areas. If the vendors, for example, become problematic to visitors in the park and it kind of overrides the aesthetics and peace and quiet of the parks, then we can look at managing that. But I think we need a starting point, and this is a very good starting point to work from.
Yeah.
I have one more question.
Go ahead, Councillor Chandler.
And I think I mentioned this when maybe it was at a committee of the whole. Was there any consideration given to what I call Kinloch Beach or Bellevue Cove for approval?
Not at this time, no.
Could there be?
Yeah, I guess we could have a look at that and see.
When I look
Check
at the number of people that attend that facility, it is actually, when I look at T Hill Park, for example, certainly there's regular sporting events and whatnot that happen there, but as far as density, Kinloch Beach attracts an awful lot of people. Additionally, as someone who lives in the area, I notice that a lot of folks come to that beach via public transit, so they're getting dropped off and then they're spending, significant amount of time. So it would be an opportunity to offer them a chance to buy a beverage, whatever it might be.
For
I'd love for that to be considered.
Sure, yeah, well, the parks that we put on here, in conversation with the Director of Recreation, we agreed on those ones, but I could definitely ask him about that one if that's possible as well.
Yeah, it's a pretty high density spot.
Okay, the questions on the floor. All in favor? Aye. Nay? Motion carried.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move down to,
This is, thank you, Mr. Bain, Ms. McDonald, Mr. Carnell for all that. Appreciate your work on it to date. Looks like we might have some more work to do, and that's good. There's not a problem. Yeah. 12H.
Jill.
Yeah. Councilor Chandler has to leave. Yeah.
Okay.
I give you my, I have a previous,
Thank you. We still have quorum. So, yeah. 12H. And you're just missing the exciting one, Councilor Chandler, so that's on you. Resolution PH 012-2025, A001-25, Town of Stratford zoning development bylaw amendment, being number 45S, to non-combustible fire separations. This is a first reading. Just give me one moment. I have to reload this. Moved by myself as Chair, Planning and Heritage, and it reads as follows. Whereas planning staff are proposing a housekeeping text amendment to the zoning and development bylaw number 45 to reduce province-wide confusion in the industry caused by referring to the vertical fire separation required for semi-detached and townhouse dwellings as a, quote, fire wall. And whereas the proposed text amendments will not change building permit requirements or the ability to subdivide attached dwellings from what has been required since the town first adopted the National Building Code of Canada in 2011. Whereas in accordance with section 3.2.3 of the zoning and development bylaw number 45, notice of the amendments in public meeting occurred through the placement of an advertisement in the local Guardian newspaper on two separate editions, February 22nd, 2025 and March 3rd, 2025. Notice of the public meeting was posted on the town's Facebook and YouTube page Whereas a public meeting was held on March 5th, 2025 at 6 p.m. at the town center and was live streamed on the town's Facebook page and YouTube. No questions or comments were received at the meeting, and no written comments were received by the deadline of March 7th, 2025. Be it resolved that bylaw number 45S, a bylaw to amend the town of Stratford zoning and development bylaw number 45, be hereby read and approved a first time. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Planning and Heritage Committee as discussed at a meeting held on March 31st, 2025.
Just have a seconder. Councillor Jackson? Okay, discussion?
So, Mr. McKeegan's here. I don't know if the councilors need a technical overview of this. From what I understand, and I stand to be corrected on this, this will not run any development that's underway afoul of any changes such that it's going to negatively impact any development currently underway in the town. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's basically, it's a change of terminology is what's happening here between a firewall and a fire separation. It's just for clarity purposes, and it's something that was initiated by the province, and we're just following through on it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, the questions on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nay? No. Okay, motion carried.
12I, Resolution PH 013-2025, RZ001-24 from R&D Builders, a zoning bylaw amendment request to amend our zoning map from the R2 with a sustainable subdivision overlay to R3, located at Forest Trails Phase 4, PID 289512. Moved by myself as Chair of Planning and Heritage. Reads as follows. Whereas an application has been received from R&D Builders requesting to rezone PID 289512, located at the end of Hollis Avenue from the medium-density residential R2 zone with a sustainable subdivision overlay zone to the multiple unit residential R3 zone. Whereas the purpose of the zoning amendment is to facilitate the construction of 2 38-unit multi-unit buildings, being apartments, and 3 stacked townhouse dwellings. And whereas in accordance with the Stratford zoning development bylaw number 45, 54 notification letters were sent out to property owners whose parcels were within 150 meters of the subject properties. 2 advertisements were placed in the Guardian on September the 9th, October the 5th, 2024. And the proposed zoning amendment was advertised on social media to solicit input and to notify residents of the public meeting. Whereas a public meeting was held on October the 8th, 2024 with 35 residents in attendance, it was also live streamed on the town's Facebook and YouTube. Residents were given until October 20th, 2024 to submit their comments. Whereas comments from the town's live stream were read into the record and recorded in the minutes. Whereas planning staff received 2 response letters from residents before the meeting and 18 letters were received after the meeting before the October 20th deadline, providing comments and concerns with the proposed zoning amendment and proposed future development of the subject lands. Whereas the Planning Committee at their November 8th meeting decided to hold off making a recommendation until more information had been obtained regarding the road capacity at Hollis Avenue, the location and boundaries of a newly delineated wetland, and a preliminary grading plan. Whereas the Planning Committee at their March 31st meeting reviewed additional information, which was submitted by the province and the applicant that addressed the outstanding issues identified at the November Planning Committee meeting. Be it resolved that bylaw number 45T, a bylaw to amend the town of Stratford zoning and development bylaw number 45, be hereby read and approved a first time. This resolution does bear the recommendation of the Planning, Development, and Heritage Committee as discussed at a meeting held on March 31st, 2025.
Okay, I need a seconder. Second by Councillor Jackson? Okay, thank you. Okay, we probably want the planner to come up.
I'll ask Mr. Ruff, who has done all of the work on this and from the get-go on it.
Yeah.
I'll have a few questions for you first, Mr. Ruff, and if there's anything that, or actually, you know what, what I'll invite you to do is perhaps provide an overview of where this has started, where it is now, what's the benefit of the rezoning, what's the merits of this, where the issues, for instance, and if you could just give us that overview, then I might have some questions for you that was arising out of that.
Okay, yeah. So this is actually the 4th phase of the Forest Trail subdivision. So the Forest Road subdivision originally started back in 2011. And phase 1 was John Knox Way, phase 2 was Autumn Lane, and then phase 3 was Balderson Court, and then now we're in phase 4. So the original concept for the area called for townhouses and a combination of singles and semis in the area. The lot layouts have not really changed a whole lot. Essentially, lot 1 is a new lot. Lots 2, 3, 4 were originally 2 semis and a single. They've just been bumped up in size a little bit. And then lot 10 was where the townhouses were originally going to go. And then parcel R6 is the road through there. So there are 2 separate applications here today. One's the rezoning and one subdivision. They're separate applications. They're not tied into each other per se. So just because one fails doesn't mean the other one automatically fails. So the original concept called for townhouses. The developers have come in and said, hey, we're looking at changing up the design, get more units in here. So the original proposal called for between 30 and 36, depending on the stage for townhouses. They are considering 2 38-unit apartment buildings in here. So under the current zoning, so the zoning is the R2 zone base zone with a sustainable overlay. So the sustainable overlay permits additional uses within there. It does not have any development standards on it. So they're wide open as to what the standards are. And they supersede anything in the R2 zone underneath. So the R3 zone allows for the apartments, but it's also got specific development standards for both the apartments and the stacked townhouses, which are being considered by the developer. So the purpose of going to the R3 was to establish some standards for the area so people know, hey, this is what your standard setbacks are, minimum or maximum building heights, and so forth through there. So the main focus on the rezoning is to have those development standards in place so people know what they are. It makes the apartments a little easier. They go from a special permit use in the overlay zone to a conditional use. So the apartments are still, in theory, possible under the overlay zone. The other issue is the R3 zone eliminates some of the elements of the sustainable overlay component, and it has density standards in there. The R2 zone has no density standards, so the bonus seen from the sustainable overlay isn't applicable anymore because there's nothing to give a bonus to. So the main focus is to have development standards in place for the development. In terms of the process, this originally came on board last year. There was a public meeting in October of 24, and there is a lot of comments generated. I think we had 35 attendants at the public meeting, and we had 54 notification letters went out to residents, and I think we had something like 20 letters coming in, 2 before the meeting and 18 after. So there were a lot of comments generated. If you read through the minutes from a planning committee, there is a summary list of what the comments were. A lot of them dealt with the road connection, traffic in the area, parking issues. There was a big concern on the wetland because on this drawing, essentially anything in the dark green, or dark gray, is actually, it was on the original concepts identified as a wet area. It was never officially designated. Between the end of notification period and the public meeting, the province went in and delineated a map, like delineated the wetland through there. So when we were going for first reading initially in 24, We decided to hold off because we needed to know exactly where the boundaries were. There was a bit of dispute on where those boundaries were. The province hadn't updated their map at the time this was going to go to council. So we decided to hold off bringing this to council in 24 until we dealt with the road issue, because there's concerns on, is a traffic impact assessment required or a traffic study? There's concerns on drainage in the area and the wetland itself. So since then, we have reached out to the province and heard back from them saying they do not require a traffic study. They said Hollis Avenue has capacity to accommodate this development, and when it connects up to McIntosh, some of the traffic will go McIntosh direction, not all through Hollis. The wetland issues, we've been working closely with environment on that. And can you actually bring up 9C, the wetland delineation with the maps? The last PDF. There you go. So what R&D builders did is they reached out to Fundy Engineering and got the engineering firm to do a wetland delineation. So Fundy went in and did a number of on-site visits. They did a couple of borehole testings, and they mapped out where they say the wetland is based on their study. So on here, everything in blue is the provincial delineation. This was predominantly based off of a map exercise. So they took a look at some of the old aerial maps where this all used to be a tree cover back in the day, and they said that's where the wet area is. Fundy Engineering went in and said, hey, based on an on-site visit, this is where they're mapping out the boundaries. So in terms of the lots themselves, lot 1, both parties have agreed that one is no good. It's fully within the wetland. Lots 2, 3, and 4 are partially or potentially within the wetland boundary, and we'll work with environment to clear up the exact boundaries on that. So in terms of the rezoning ones, essentially everything in yellow here, with the exception of the these units up here, is part of the rezoning. So like this lot plus everything down here is under consideration for rezoning to the R3. So essentially that has cleared up our main concerns with the wetland component. So that's why we're bringing this forward now to council for first reading, because our concerns with the wetland, the road issues, and drainage have been relieved. So they have supplied us with a preliminary drainage plan. They will be draining the water from the property towards Hollis. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ruff. I do have a couple of questions. Okay, so the first question that I'd ask you is if you could just articulate to council here, when we're looking at a proposed rezoning such as this, what are the considerations or what are the criteria that council should be keeping in mind when we're considering this?
Okay, so there are a couple. One, you tie into how it ties into the official plan. So there are a number of policies in the official plan that deal with it. So you take a look at compatibility of the proposed uses. Does the intended use of the property meet the zoning? So in this case, they're looking at apartments. Apartments are allowed within the R3 zone. If they're looking at trying to do, say, Tim Hortons and rezoning it to an R3, that's not going to work. The intended use does not fit the zone. You take a look at the compatibility with the proposed uses in the neighborhood. So are you doing residential in residential neighborhood? Or are you doing commercial in residential neighborhood? So there's considerations on that. What else would there be? I'm trying to think.
I think you have to look at the environment around it as well to be sustainable and not to be Sorry, I mean, you have to make sure that what's, and Phil mentioned this briefly, but I mean, you have to look at the environmentally sensitive area around it, and this development will do any damage to it. When you look at the map there, you see a lot of green and blue area there outside the lots, so there may be a consideration at some point in time to just address the lots themselves that are going to be developed as the rezone area and not the environmentally sensitive area, so that can be a discussion down the road later on, but things like that to make sure that things are compatible, things that are accessed properly, and servicing is all there. All the things that would make it a healthy and viable development has to be considered. But one of the main things, as Phil mentioned, was making sure what's being proposed meets the policies of the official plan, because the official plan is the prevailing document over the bylaw. So,
Okay, and just, I'll ask you both to stay there for a second. Is it oversimplifying things to boil this down to say essentially that really our overriding concern when we're looking at a rezoning here is to ensure that if there's a proposed rezoning, that it be in harmony with the surrounding areas? Is that oversimplifying it?
not at all.
Okay. All right, so now, from what I understand, let's say we agree to rezone this to R3. That does not necessarily mean that lets them take a bulldozer to that wetland area or in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't give them any increased license to do any development work in that, in the wetland, at a minimum is defined by the province currently.
Yes, yeah, the wetland is. So in terms of planning is a balanced act between essentially the concerns of the public good and the private individuals of landowners. So it's both are important, and neither should be the sole focus of decision. So.
Okay. Now, from what I understand, as you noted, under the strict definition of the R2 with the sustainable subdivision overlay, these 238 unit apartment buildings are technically permitted as a special permit use.
Yes, yeah. The overlay zone does allow for multi-unit dwellings, which are apartments, as special permit use.
Okay. And R3 is a conditional use.
Yes, yeah, with established development standards.
So we understand what the proposal is. I recall being at the public meeting, and I recall some of the concept drawings shown by the proponents of the rezoning. At a minimum, if this rezoning occurs, council still has another look at these apartment buildings on a conditional use basis.
Yes, yeah. So what is not being decided upon today would be the design of the buildings themselves or the building or the apartments itself.
Yeah.
So that's a separate application. That'd be the development permit application down the road.
Yeah, and I'll just say this, just on that point, Mr. Ruffin, you're absolutely right, but I just, a tension that I think was evident at the public meeting was the developers repeated themselves on a number of occasions saying, we're simply looking for the rezoning here today. And the attendees of the public meeting, being the residents who were notified of it, were, I would suggest, less than satisfied with that response. And to be totally honest, so was I, to a certain extent, in that I think it wasn't really of assistance to the residents to consider a rezoning in a vacuum, and the details were somewhat scarce. So there's two things really that I've kind of have articulated on this from the get-go. First of all, I'm supportive of the rezoning insofar as it allows us to still maintain control of the zone in the form of a conditional use review on these proposed apartment buildings. It allows us to import some design standards, as you've noted, and some development standards, and I think that's appropriate. And also appropriately, it does not in any way, shape, or form diminish the protections and the considerations, and I guess, of any potential wetland area. Would that, am I right in saying all of those things?
It's still, like, being conditional use, you still have the ability to have design standards in place, like color schemes, those things, to actually make the development fit into the area.
Okay. So, Mr. Ruff, I'm just wondering if we have a broader map. I'm just wondering, I know we've talked about this before, but I'll be totally honest with you, I forget a little bit. In terms of the surrounding zoning, what are we looking at there?
So
Is it R2s? Yeah?
Yeah, so essentially the area around it is R2, so medium density residential. You have pretty much Reeves Estate is R2, so medium density, and then up towards the rest of Hollis essentially is R2 with the sustainable overlay.
Okay. And this rezoning is not contingent upon any developer extending that road from McIntosh. Is that correct, to Hollis? Or?
So essentially any development in the area will have to connect Hollis to McIntosh.
Any development? But
Yes.
is this rezoning contingent upon any developer doing
No,
that?
the rezoning can, in theory, take place today. Development may not take place for 20 years.
Right, yeah.
It's just whenever development occurs, McIntosh and Hollis get connected. It's always been the intention of the Forest Trail subdivision to connect the two roads.
Okay.
So-
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Discussion, Constable. Councillor Dowling,
Long time.
yeah, the old constable.
Just full disclosure on this point, at the last Planning and Development and Heritage Committee, I voted nay to the change in zoning. I put a lot of thought into it in the meantime, and I see merit in relation to providing those planning standards. I'm very reluctant, I think as this council knows, to implement zoning changes within the community ahead of our official plan, which we're slowly but surely coming up to. This one, just by the way Mr. Ruff explained it, and this was present at the committee meeting as well, but I'd since had time to reflect on it, it doesn't really seem to make a difference. In fact, there's some argument to be made about getting rid of the sustainable subdivision overlay zone, because I understand there's not a lot of that within the community.
There's two areas that are sustainable overlays. You have forest trails and flourish heights, or flourish development, sorry.
So, yeah, I am in support now. I'll change my mind on that. It may be the only time I do in relation to zoning change, but I'll take them as they come. I don't want to be overly myopic on the topic, but I am going to support it in this instance. And so far as the change of zoning, recognizing that the proposed project would be permitted subject to council's approval at any rate, as the proposed project would have to be in relation to the R3 zone as well. Thank you.
Councillor Jackson. Councillor Jackson.
Yeah, I was also in the same boat, I think, as Councillor Dowling in the past on this one. But a lot has changed in my view. You know, we're a stone's throw from the high school, the junior high. The idea that road's going to connect through for safety and for, I mean, it's going to enhance the accessibility of transit in there. I think one of the concerns I did have before, which will ultimately be dealt with, I think, I'm sure, is around the water and recognizing some of the issues that were had by residents in Reeves Estates. But, you know, that water issue's there right now. So, you know, if that's going to be addressed in a development, I think that's a positive for them, because if not, it just continues to stay the way it is. You know, full confidence that the wetland or the designated area will be respected, and I look forward to it coming back. But I do think there's, you know, the reference to, and I'm not sure, maybe I'm speaking out of turn in this, but in the not being concerned so much with the traffic, I think it was in this one. Again, given that idea that hopefully would lead to a better connection with transit, I feel positive about this planned rezoning, and look forward to something coming forward that we can have a look at in the future here on as far as set plans.
Is that it? You finished, okay? Councillor Cox? No issue?
I think everything, everything else seems straight.
Okay. Okay, well, the questions asked, we had discussion. So all in favor? All- Any nays? No. Okay, motion carried. Motion carried.
Sorry, Mr. McGee, sir. Maybe let's just.
I just want to add one thing, based on the stormwater matter. We'll only be able to take care of so much stormwater up there because on the backside of the development of the apartment buildings, there's a row of houses in behind there. And I've been there a number of times and checked it out. And when it does gather water, it's from the back slope of the land that the apartment's going on. Because when you go to the back of that lot, it drops off significantly, and probably a moderate slope there. So the water's coming, hitting that and laying in the land behind those houses. So we're going to have to find a mitigation measure or something that's going to be more effective than just trying to control the water that's on the proposed lot that's going right to the new road. That's not affecting it. So there is a separate matter there altogether, so we're clear on that.
Okay, just on that point though, so just in terms of our process, does this impact the rezoning?
No,
Okay,
no, it doesn't.
Okay.
But when we start doing proposed development and activities that relate to that,
okay,
we should look at that in its entirety as well.
all right,
Okay.
okay.
Thanks, Dale. I think that's the most important thing for me is, that's the only concern going forward, and I'm certain that'll be dealt with at the proper time, but, yeah, good for now, thanks.
Okay, we're good?
I don't think that, unless that information impacts anybody's decision on that resolution.
Oh, everybody good?
Yeah, okay.
So we're moving to, I guess, the resolution, was this one?
This is 12J, resolution number PH 014-2025, SD 009-25, from R&D Builders, Forest Trails Phase 4, PID 289512, a 9-lot preliminary subdivision approval. Comes from Planning and Heritage and is moved by myself as chair of that committee. Reads as follows. Whereas an application has been received from R&D Builders to revise the 4th phase of the Forest Trails subdivision, located on parcel number 289512, approximately 11.3 acres in total area, located at the end of Hollis Avenue into 9 lots within the medium-density residential R2 zone with a sustainable subdivision overlay zone. And whereas the purpose of this zoning amendment is to facilitate the creation of 5 lots for residential development, being lots 1, 2, 3, 4, and 10, 2 lots for green space, lots 0-6 and 0-7, the Hollis Road extension R5, and a small remnant land lot, lot 24-A1. Whereas each of the proposed lots meet the minimum lot standards for the proposed residential developments of stacked townhouses or multi-unit dwellings. And whereas comments obtained from the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure indicate that Hollis Avenue needs to be extended to connect to McIntosh Drive. Whereas a formal wetland delineation assessment has been completed by Fundy Engineering on behalf of the applicant. That was reviewed by and deemed acceptable by Provincial Department of Environmental, Energy, and Climate Action that mapped out the revised boundaries of the designated wetland in lot 0-7. Be it resolved that preliminary subdivision approval be granted to an application received from R&D Builders to revise the 4th phase of the Forest Trail subdivision, located on parcel number 289512, approximately 11.3 acres in total area, into 7 lots in accordance with the following conditions. 1. Conformance with the overall site plan prepared by Mantha Land Surveys Incorporated, file number 24-J-3, drawing number M-24-46, dated February 13th, 2024. That lot 1 and parcel 24A-A1, shown on the survey plan identified in condition number 1, be amalgamated with parcel 0-7. 3, that the applicant work with the Department of Environment, Energy, and Climate Action to determine the final location of the wetland boundary on lots 2, 3, and 4. 4, that a stormwater management plan be designed by a licensed engineer using low-impact development guidelines to be approved by both the Department of Transportation and the town. 5, that an overall grading plan be designed by a licensed engineer to set the finished floor and pad elevations for each of the lots in coordination with and including the proposed paths of drainage for each lot to be approved by the town. 6, that an erosion and sedimentation control plan be designed by a licensed engineer using the town's erosion and sedimentation control guidelines to be approved by both DTI and the town. That the extension of Hollis Avenue shall be designed in accordance with the provincial road standards of DTI, and that a subdivision road agreement shall be executed. that the sewer and water systems shall be designed in accordance with the Stratford Utility Corporation servicing standards, and that a utility agreement shall be executed along with the payment of all applicable capital contribution fees required by the Stratford Utility Corporation. That the developer shall enter into a subdivision agreement with the town to be registered to the property at the cost of the developer. That the developer makes an agreement with Canada Post and meet Canada Post's requirements for establishing community mailboxes in new subdivisions. That all other relative provisions of the Town of Stratford zoning and development bylaw number 45 are met, and that preliminary approval shall be valid for a period of 3 years from the date of council's approval on April the 9th, 2025. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Planning, Development, and Heritage Committee as discussed at a meeting held on March 31st, 2025.
Okay, we need a seconder. Councillor Cox. Okay, discussion.
We just have a look at the lots again, continuation of the numbers for both.
I think that's a great starting point. Councillor Dowling, yep.
Lots 10 and
So I can speak on that. So condition number 2 calls for lot 1, so this lot here, and this parcel of land. It's a small remnant parcel. It's a triangle piece, barely 1/9 of an acre. Essentially, it's a remnant of where the road comes down and where lot lines line up. So essentially, these two parcels, lot 1 and 24-A1, we're proposing to be added into the wetland parcel, the 07.
And Mr. Rupp, just before we even get there.
Yes, yeah.
Just before we even get there, tell us, as is, right now, currently, all of this proposal, is this just one large lot right now?
Yes, it's
Okay.
all one large lot at the moment. It's 11.34 acres.
Okay, all right. And if we could zoom out just a bit, if possible?
zoom out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the entirety of the parcel to the left of that kind of thicker line there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so essentially it goes straight up,
Yeah.
parallel to the lots on Dewar, cuts across, down, across the road, and then down to the highway, and then
Okay.
back up.
Okay, all right. And so, all right, that was my question. I don't know if you wanted to follow up on that, Councillor
Just
Dowling.
Lots 6 and 7, that's the lots below the proposed development lots?
So 07 is down here, is the wetland, and then 06 is the one around the apartment. Like, this is lot 10.
That's 10, yeah.
The numbering system is made up by the surveyor, so the numbers don't necessarily line up with lots 1 to 10. There's only 9 lots being created. So lot 10 is where the apartments would be located if they're approved down the road. 06 or 06 would be similar to what happens on the other two higher density developments. So it's going to be an open space lot, hence why it's an 07. Essentially, that would be left as a potential drainage area. Lot 10 is actually higher than the land on 06. It's up by about 5 or 6 feet. So if you go to wetland, go to 9D, you can actually see on this one, if you zoom in on the top right hand corner of where lot 10 would be, you can actually see on the aerial there's a bit of a berm. So right about here, this is actually an elevation. So it's actually up about 5 feet. So in terms of drainage, where the apartments are being, they could effectively dig down and leave natural berm, so no water would go towards the drainage area. Because currently the ongoing drainage issue is right into this grove of trees. It might potentially come just into this corner, but it's not caused by this property at all. It's caused by issues with the John Knox Way. That's been ongoing for a number of years. Essentially, at spring thaw, you have a little bit of ice buildup in this area. It's a natural low spot. There is I believe, a dry well in there. The town has been working with the developer of that phase to fix up the issue. So where the development on these two lots, it'd be further down here, so all drainage can come towards Hollis at that point. So.
Anything else, Councillor Dowling? Or?
Just so clear. So then, is lots 6 and 7, is that considered parkland dedication, or is that just green space that will be continued to be owned by the current property owner or the developer?
So if it's following the same setup as the rest of Forest Trails, I believe with the rest of Forest Trails, it was deeded over to the town. So the 2 open space parcels were deeded over to the town.
So I'm just wondering, like typically, we wouldn't necessarily take wetland properties as green space or parkland dedication. And I'm just wondering what might the liability issue be for the town should people build on those lots and be impacted by the wetlands as far as flooding and that sort of thing. Maybe I'm off base, just something that occurred to me for consideration.
So just so I can understand your question, you're talking about lots 6 and 7 in that regard? Okay.
The one down below the wetland lot in particular.
07. Yep.
So that can't, I don't think anyone, that's not scheduled for development, is it parcel 0-7?
No.
No.
Like if you go back to that 9D1.
Just so I'm clear, I'm referring to the development lots that are being proposed up above.
Okay, lots 6 and 7,
Yeah.
not parcel. Sorry.
Yeah, so lots 6 and 7 are being proposed as parkland dedication or green space dedication. Town would take ownership of those. Then the lots that are up top, just off of McKinnon or Hollis, that are being proposed, further down, are being proposed. Lots, 2, 3, and 4, should they then be developed and issues arise as a result of parcel 7, which the town would then own, what liability might the town bear? And as far as any flooding, we don't know for certain yet if these lots 2, 3, and 4 are essentially above any sort of floodplain or wetland plain for certain yet.
Yeah.
I know there's some indication they are, but the province, I don't think, has chimed in to say they are or not, have they?
So if you take a look at condition 3, it requires the applicant to work with the Department of Environment to determine the final location of the wetland boundary on lots 2, 3, and 4. So the province has indicated that they reviewed the report from Funny Engineering, who's to where the wetland is. They're willing to work with the developers to establish where that boundary is, and there might be some payment required or establishment of a set boundary. There was comments of potentially working with, I believe, Ducks Unlimited on establishing like a formal wetland, like even dig out a wet area, something like that. So there is consideration to work with Ducks Unlimited to set something up on this property. The Ducks Unlimited was originally approached in 2011 back with the original concept, but they're willing to consider working with them today. So the exact boundaries of that wetland still need to be determined with the developer and the environment.
May be determined, sorry, I don't want to belabor the point, but they be determined through drilling in order to I'm sure that if someone were to put basements in on those lots, they wouldn't essentially be getting into a water table sort of situation where they're continually plagued by flooding. And again, I don't know if there's any risk. Perhaps it's a buyer beware type or builder beware type approach, or whether, you know, the town bears a risk down the road if we approve these as building lots, and those buildings then become subject to continual flooding. Perhaps there's no liability. I'm just wondering if that's been explored.
I think you're right on the money, Councillor Dowling. So, I mean, I think, you know, the question is that do we want something, I guess, firmer from the province in terms of where they're prepared to say this is a wetland and not? That seems to be the issue, I think, with those lots that you're talking about, for sure. Yeah. And I don't know, Mr. Ruff, Mr. McKeegan, if
Yeah. We rely on professionals like the Department of Environment, like DTI, things like that, to get comments back, and we rely on them heavily. And we will not move forward with any decisions until we actually have certainty on the matter of this status of this land as far as wetland and how it's delineated. So it's in that first or second phase of it, but we don't have the final conclusion yet. So once we have that, then we make a decision. And if it needs to come back through council at that point in time, yes, we will do that, and we'll have better certainty in that at that point in time. So, but I understand where you're coming from, and it's still a concern yet because it's not definitive.
Yeah. So I guess just my question on that, and I appreciate your comments on that, but if we vote to rezone or to subdivide today, does that take any control out of our hands in terms of this process?
If we can revoke a subdivision or rescind a subdivision if we go forward and find out different information. So we should probably write something in there, but that we have that ability to come back after we have information from environment to know the status of it, or we can delay the subdivision until such time. Either way, we're being cautious to make sure we have some certainty at the end of the day.
Would a friendly amendment to the resolution deal with that?
I think it would.
Would you suggest any wording to that effect?
I'm a little concerned not knowing the definitive response from environment yet, because that can change drastically, because it has changed drastically from day one.
Yeah.
Can they proceed with their plans for coming back with the apartment stuff if we don't subdivide these? Like, now that we've rezoned, or first reading, we've rezoned it to an R3, can they proceed with that? Like, I'm a little leery too until we get some certainty on these. Maybe they're never going to develop, I'm not sure. Is there, you know, by the rezoning, is that enough for them to proceed with the proposed apartments on Lot 10, or do they need some type of answer in this resolution?
I think you can go forward if you want to phase this, so to speak, to do the apartment lot first and conditionally wait till you have a response back on the other ones to know you have absolute certainty in how to decide on it. So if that's the stance you prefer to take, because right now you're not absolutely sure of the status of the southern part of the land, right?
You know, I think that I'd like to hear from Councillor Cox too, but I think for myself, Councillor Jackson, Councillor Dowling, I mean, it just seems a little premature on these ones. But I do think Councillor Jackson's a good point that if there's a way we proceed forward, at least on the subdivision of that proposed Lot 10, consider that. But I don't know if that's a possibility or not. But
I'll just add brief. I agree with what was said, especially Councillor Jackson, and what Dale, you just said. I'd like to do that. I think that makes more sense at this point. There's a lot of things here. It just seems like it's just kind of, I don't know. It's just, I'm not gelling with it. Does that make any sense? Ron's good, but everybody said great points. So yeah, I kind of agree with that last point that was made. So. And it's past 7 for me to ramble on again, so you guys have already said the right stuff, so.
Yeah,
blah, blah, blah.
he's getting punch drunk over there. So, I guess just in terms of a path forward, do you have any thoughts, Mr. Ruff?
Yeah, so in theory, we do have the one condition where it says the applicant has to work with environment. We could potentially change that up and say work with environment and the town on that. I can read out what we did receive back from environment. So essentially, okay, the department is willing to work with you, being the applicants, on lots 2, 3, and 4. So in the spring, we can confirm the extent, we being environment, the extent of the wetland lots 2 to 4. Right now, it looks like you may be able to develop lot 4 and possibly lot 3 without impacting the wetland. There may be some more wetland on lot 2 that would be impacted by development, which may require compensation. However, this cannot be determined until spring. Either way, environment is willing to work with the applicants on the development lots 2 to 4, so long as the wetland impact is minimized and potential compensation for lot 3 would have to be determined in the spring. Lot 1 is undeniably wetland and cannot be developed, and the department would not be willing to budge on this lot.
If I may, yeah, after that, Mr. Rupp, I think that kind of cements where I'm at on this. Like, I think we're providing with the rezoning, yes, it was available in the R2 sustainable, but I think by us providing that ability for higher density in there where we know it's drier, but they do have some pre-existing issues and they need to make sure that they deal with this. If there's a way, Councillor McDonald, for us to proceed with moving on the lot 10, but I'm really leery. And the idea, and Mr. Ruff, if you could explain the compensation. What does that mean when they talk about lot 3? Is that you're paying, you bypass the buffer zone? Like I just really, for a lot of the residents out there that have had concerns around housing accelerator, and there's people saying, you know, we're just looking for more funds to do all these things. I think with respect to the environment here, I think just looking at the map, I don't really see a good path forward on those, but I do agree with the idea of the lot 10. So I'm not sure where we're at on those. I'd hate to approve it and maybe lose the ability. Anyway, I'm not sure what I'm saying. I like moving with lot 10, but I'm really leery about the other one.
Can we say something, if you look at condition 3, can we say something to the effect that, that the applicant establish a clear wetland boundary to the satisfaction of EECA and the town, and further, no development shall occur on lots 2, 3, and 4 until such time as EECA and the town of Stratford are satisfied of that final wetland boundary? Can we, is that?
It could work.
Would we have to change the resolution then? The resolution says 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 10.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if there's, I'm just going to throw this out there. It's quite an unusual situation. I don't know the status of what the developer wants to do and not do depending on the delineation, so that could impact them drastically. And they may say, if I can't get those lots, we're not doing anything. Yeah. So I'm just wondering, is a situation where, just hypothetically, we defer this until we have more information, we, planning staff, talk to the developer and say, here's the situation we're up against. And let them make a decision on how they feel they want to move forward, just to be fair.
I would put a motion on the floor to defer this.
Okay, the motion's on the floor to defer. So a second by Councillor Jackson. All those in favor of deferral? Aye. Okay, motion carried.
What was the reason again? Oh, yeah, and the rationale is that the EECA has stated that they are going to conduct research and field work, and that research and field work is going to occur in the spring. We're in the spring. The deferral will allow that work to occur. And I think the deferral is because they've noted themselves in the spring when, you know, flooding is going to occur and where we're going to have the highest melt. That's this isn't going to be an overly lengthy deferral, so I don't think there's much prejudice to the developer here and the applicant. And I think it's going to give everybody a better idea of what we're allowed to do and what we're not. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. And I appreciate the request for the clarification.
Okay, great discussion, everyone. So we'll move to, I guess, where we move up to where recreation, I guess, Gordy, right? No,
Okay.
finance, recreation, yeah, recreation, cultural events.
Thank you,
Your worship.
Councillor Gallant, Your Worship. This will probably be the longest part of the meeting. I expect it to be about 2.5 hours time I get through this. There's a lot of subsections and subsections to the subsections. So you may want to order pizza there, CAO, for us. We'll be here at probably 10. The Recreation Cultural Events Committee did not meet in March. Stratford Youth Center and Council have been bustling with activity, and they just wrapped up successful March break. Just wanted to note that the center offers daily drop-in sessions for young people to connect and enjoy a safe place, relax. So, and we're very proud of our, as you know, our Stratford Youth Center. The Drama Club is currently working on exciting play and can't wait to learn more about that. And last play they had was awesome, so that's going to be, stay tuned for that. Also, there will be a movie night on Friday, April 11th. Great way to unwind, enjoy a film with friends. And also the Garden Club will be starting at the end of April, and that's always a highlight here in Stratford. And this actually also provides a fantastic chance for youth to get involved in gardening and learn more about nature. And once again, that'll be starting at the end of April. Spring maintenance and planning is in full swing as we prepare for a busy season ahead. Our staff here is really working hard and continue to work hard as we get things in place here. Not only getting batting cages at McNeil Field and getting the track ready and stuff, et cetera, but also putting up nets for tennis and pickleball courts, but also working on problems that will rise up due to the weather, such as runoff, et cetera. So our staff is going to really be working hard at this, but it will help our recreation in the area, and that will be in full swing here fairly shortly. So. The Irish Felt Fairy and the Art of Henna was held, two great workshops. In the Felt Fairy workshop, there was 15 residents participated in this, and also in the Art of Henna, there was 9. They were all engaging, and the attendees seemed to thoroughly enjoy themselves, and they got a chance to explore traditional forms of art. The workshop also attracted additional attention from CBC Radio, as they tend to capture the cultural, significant, and artistic process. So nice to see CBC saluting that, which were really great. Spring programs commence this week. The week marks the beginning of our spring programs, which promise a diverse range of activities aiming at engaging the community. From arts and crafts to fitness classes, these programs are designed to cater to a wide variety of interests and age groups. So this marks, obviously, the beginning of these programs. The Poppy Tally project, or the Poppy Project Tally. The Poppy Project has made this incredible strides. We're excited to announce that the current tally stands at 2,842. I had a meeting with Melanie Weatherby about this yesterday, and actually, if they count up all that's right now, that has been turned in and that we know is completed, it's over 4,000. And that was our goal initially. So now it's our goal is at 8,000. There's actually 4 communities in PEI. The other 3 communities are smaller communities like Wellington that are also doing this. But the fact that we're increasing our goal to 8,000 is pretty substantial. So hats off to our staff who worked hard on this, especially Melanie Weatherby, who did a great job leading this. Canada Day on Tuesday, July 1st at the Michael Thomas Waterfront Park. This is going to be really exciting. As you know, last few years we've held it down T Hill, and this year we're going to be having it at the Michael Thomas Waterfront Park. where the community can gather on Tuesday, July 1st, for a day of festivities with stunning waterfront views. The park will provide the perfect backdrop for the day's activities. As you know from the last few years, it's a very family-friendly place to bring your whole gang. And there's live music, food vendors, and there's going to be fireworks on display that evening. Celebration will begin together as individuals of all ages come to celebrate the nation's history and diversity, and especially in these trying times, it's great to see everyone out, celebrating all that Canada is. May and June pickleball program offered with registration open. I know both Jeremy's and Wendy, and I know also Rachel and others are very worried that no one will come and play pickleball, that it may not go over. It may just be a dud and it'll be a flop. But I got a feeling, my gut, that this may actually fly and people may actually enjoy it. So it's now available for registration. So the May-June pickleball program is now available for registration. So make sure, because I got a feeling it may not fill up right away, but sometime in the next month it probably will. And by that I mean probably within like 4 hours after it opens up. So, that we'll see how it goes. Okay, summer camp registration taking place. Summer camp registration is now open. We are excited to offer a variety of fun, engaging camps for kids of all ages. From outdoor activities to arts and crafts, our camps are designed to provide an enriching experience for every child. Spots are filled up quickly, so be sure to register soon to secure a spot in your preferred camp program. There's Intro to Sport and U4 soccer registration, which opens May 1st. Registration for the Intro to Sport and U4 soccer programs, once again, will open on May 1st. So that's pretty much my report. I know there's probably a lot of questions I asked that you just talked to me after because of the time, but I know everybody probably has a lot of questions of what I just talked about. So thank you. That's the report.
Thank you, Councillor Cox.
No questions, Councillor Cox. Good comment. I think we're very fortunate as a community to have such diversity in programming for all ages. And that's kudos to the Recreation, Culture and Events Department staff and committee. And it's going to be very impressive to see the Poppy project and its completion.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm really looking forward to Canada Day because I think people are going to be much more bejeweled and bedecked than they were in the past, and much more enthusiastic. Not that they weren't in the past, but I think we're going to even see that highlighted even more this year.
Right.
Because as you mentioned, the current situation south of the border. Pickleball programming, when might someone sign up and how?
That's a good question. So I think in all seriousness, it is online, am I right, Wendy, Jeremy? It is online, or is it online yet? Okay, she'll check, okay. In all seriousness, it does fill up very quickly, so we'll find that out, but it will be, if it's not online today, it will be online shortly, kind of thing. Just to answer a couple of things, the Poppy project, very big in different countries in Europe, and one of our residents, I won't say her name, but a few years ago, she was traveling in the part of Europe and noticed the Poppy project, and she brought to our attention, and there's been other people too who've also pushed it, but the fact that we've embraced the project, and it's really unique, and I think in Wellington they're going to drape it over the tank that they have there, so it's a lot of poppies. But I think here to see everybody embrace it like they have it is amazing, and a lot of diversity, in a lot of different activities. So it's I think we're doing an excellent job here, and for our residents, give them lots of options.
Yep.
Pickleball registration is open. If anyone remembers the lineup at Mary Brown's when they opened, it's probably the same thing. It's gone. Usually it's filled up pretty early, so Wendy did let me know registration is open on that. I do have a question for Councillor Cox, I guess. And we're only in April, but just kind of harkening back to last year at Remembrance Day and how wet and cold it was.
Yes.
Just wonder if I could put a bug in if the weather is that rotten again, is there any consideration could be given to hosting the event indoors, with, you know, the attendees able to lay their poppy at the memorial green
Right.
on the way out? It's just, it was torrential last year. Our veterans are getting older, and, you know, many of them would say, I don't mind standing out, but it is, I know a lot of them that have significant health issues. So it's just something to think about. I'm
Yeah.
happy to do anything I can. I know I'd mentioned it years ago. My wife's family's from up west. They had veterans in their family in O'Larry. They used to have at the Legion.
Right,
They would have folks go up and lay their wreaths up at the front of the Legion,
yeah.
and they would do that. And so it was nice for those folks, and it didn't take away from kind of the atmosphere. It was nice that everyone was able to do that. So only in the event of like inclement weather, but just something to
Yeah.
think of.
The only issue that we do have by doing that, well, logistics, but that can be dealt with, but we can't accommodate the numbers that arrive here. So that just has to be a consideration
Yeah.
that has to be
That's
taken
fair,
into
Wendy.
consideration day of.
Unless
That's fair.
somehow coordinate it, we know, but
Yeah.
we have like TV screen here and TV
Yeah.
screen in any room we could
We
find.
can't get them in this, we can't
Or
get the number of
even,
people in this building,
Yeah.
it's
even if we
overcapacity.
could kind of have it,
Yeah,
so
okay.
we could cast it into here so that folks,
Yeah,
could
if we knew in
produce- yeah.
advance, you know, if there was a
Just
major
to-
weather event, then that decision would have to be made early so
it was,
that
it
you
was,
could
it
pivot.
was rotten last year.
But,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, thank you
definitely.
for that.
Worst case scenario, like buy the mayor an umbrella and a coat. So, you know, at least help out there with him. That might be nice.
Well, no, I always look at Richie down there in the corner, like some tent over him, give some protection, and person heading the ceremonies have some cover.
Yeah.
But then they say wind, right? Wind's an issue, then all of a sudden stuff's blown down,
Yeah.
like a tent part, a canvas tent,
Yeah.
you know?
But,
anyways,
you know, what, Councillor Glenn, I must say, I think, I've been a member, you know, resident of Stratford for a lot of years, but to me, that may be the biggest turnout, even though it was pouring rain. That was a huge turnout. I don't know if I've seen a bigger turnout.
Yeah.
And that just shows you, you know, how we feel about being Canadians and how we feel about our war veterans. So that was it was excellent in that respect.
I think that probably the next time we look at that, good comments from Jody there, is when we have a wellness center, when we open a wellness center. Summerside now has their
Yeah.
events inside, and St. John, New Brunswick, and the Harbor Station have their events
Yeah.
inside. But it's something to talk about then.
I think we can look at trying to accommodate some protection outside, but, you know, based on this current, you know, events that are happening in the world, I think you'll even have a bigger turnout this year, so trying to have everybody inside will be difficult, but we'll take all these things under advisement when we get the committee together to plan for this year.
Thanks, Jeremy. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair. There's always different considerations there, but yeah, just a thought, even just for some of them, because I know they would be up by the window and stuff, but it's, yeah, last year was just a rotten year,
Yeah,
but
good.
again,
Good discussion, yeah. And like our dignitaries too are sitting on the chairs, and they get up, and then all of a sudden the back of the chair is full of water, right? It's just, you're in a pool of water, right? So it's one of those things. Keeping it outside and then and moving forward with it. So it's just one of those, good discussion. Yeah. So is that your report?
That's a report. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to finance and technology. Councillor Jody Jackson.
Your Worship, I'll try to be brief here in the essence of time. So I have a report from Director O'Connell on the kind of the events and projects underway. So just to highlight, special council meetings held on March 26, 2025 to pass the town and utility operating capital budgets. Our staff are now updating budget numbers and utility rate information in Town Suite. So with that, the April utility bills are being processed, and the new utility rates, I believe, Kim, are reflected in the April, it should be received by the 14th of April, these new bills. Letters have been sent out to vendors to let them know we are changing to an electronic payment system for payables, and it's been good uptake so far from vendors, so that's good news. Kim was in attendance at the staff session of Phase 1 of the official plan and bylaw review. Great to have all the perspectives on that. Just some of the highlights here. So received a proposal from the province for revenue sharing, and we did touch on that a little bit. We were anticipating hearing from the province, so we've kind of got some preliminary word, and FEIM is planning a revenue sharing meeting. I'm not sure if that's still in the works or if they had it, to discuss the proposals that have been received by municipalities. So more to come on that. We are happy to see some movement on that. So we'll have more information on the actual amounts to come. Submitted documentation of the province regarding the budget and municipal tax rates. And then working on some other ISIP government claims for funding and day-to-day items that are keeping our staff busy. Just one last thing on this. So I was able to participate in the interview with CBC on the 27th. So just after the budget was passed, and I can appreciate my colleague not able to kind of say a lot about the frustration, I guess, with the federal government's not funding us yet for the community campus, but I did bring that up in there. Talked about a lot of the good things that we've been doing, and that there will be hopefully some more flexibility with the provincial funding, the revenue sharing amount, but just a few, as Deputy Mayor mentioned, folks are at the doors now, and I did want to talk about it earlier. I just thought I'd wait till finance, but it's good to ask those that are seeking your vote where they sit on the on this item, and I think they're all probably in support. So just a couple numbers here, and I thank Wendy for providing me some numbers before the interview. So the average household income is around $97,000 a year in Stratford. We have about 4,000 households. So it's median family income, and it's so we're looking at probably around 4,000 households. So it's household income, Councillor. Each one of those, just in federal income tax, is paying around $13,600. Now, yes, there's credits and lots of different things. There's other people paying more too. And in provincial income tax, so we're looking at, I got the numbers here, and I'll get to the point in a second here. So 13,600 average household for federal income tax, 11,000 for provincial income tax. It ends up being like $90-some million out of our town in federal and provincial income tax. Ballpark numbers. But why I'm bringing this up is, so if we're putting out, $55 to $100 million between these two things, and we're looking for money for this one-time 50-year essentially project. I look at Simmons' $36 million project. For us to go 23 million, you have various levels of funding. The Eastlink Center is looking at $50 million just across the river. Confed Center in federal and provincial money is $47 million that have been committed.
How much was that?
47.
Yeah.
Just in those two levels.
Yep.
And not related, but ADL just got 50-50 match, $12 million from the federal government. So the money is there. I just think with these numbers that we do have, we need to continue to push them. Federal government has provincial government has been very kind. Again, good to hear about the junior high plans going further. Disappointed to see the school is going to be 2027. That was noted in PSB communications this week, but it's coming and it's there. But a significant amount of tax dollars. That's not even consumption. That's just income tax, and we need to get our share. So maybe at my own detriment, I want to keep pushing this. But if you're when folks come to your doors, just remind them of the impact that we have on the province with our tax dollars. They're holding in trust for us so that we can do things with it. I think we deserve a share of that, and I think, by the amount of money that's been kind of doled out in other communities, we don't have any of those things yet that they already have that they're fixing. So just a quick reminder on that. But that's my report. I hope people will ask them where they stand on it. I know there's a lot of competing priorities, and the Trump world is just upside down. But regardless of all that, we're still paying a ton of money in income taxes, and we want to see some of that stuff come back. So
Yeah.
And 13 million Georgetown also.
Yeah, and there's a balance of and the province has been very good to make sure that they are supporting small communities. And we want to see that. We've been there, we're still there, we're growing into a city, and that's needed, but it is just the recognition of that, the amount that we contribute here, and haven't really, in the time that all of these have been announced, haven't seen a whole lot from the federal government. So again, looking forward to whoever represents us bringing home a big check for us, but it's just really important that we bring that up.
Yep.
very good points, Councillor Jackson. I agree wholeheartedly. You know, as a community, we're at the point where we not only deserve these types of facilities as residents, but also expect them in relation to, as you had mentioned, other communities that have benefited from both higher orders of government's contributions. And, you know, it's a necessity for Stratford's future growth plans, and as well as for our immediate needs. And, you know, we have no control, obviously, over what other levels of government do or provide, and we're appreciative of whatever does come our way. But in relation to this particular issue, it's an expectation of the community, not just a request. It's something that we feel that we deserve as a fair contribution from, especially the federal government. And it's unfortunate that that didn't come into play prior to the election call, so we're hopeful that it will be very soon after the resolution of the election. Like I say, it's an expectation. It's something that we absolutely deserve, and preaching to the choir here, nobody is of any dissenting viewpoint in relation to this, but I just want to accentuate the point, and residents should take that position, as you mentioned as well, that it's an expectation. Our residents' children deserve the same benefits as be provided to other communities.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%. And like my last couple of years, raise in taxes 2 cents. I mean, looking for that reserve fund, and we're stepping up and doing our part. And then we have a fundraising committee put together, and funding from 2 levels of government. We're just looking for funding for the 3rd level of government. And with the land there purchased, like we purchased land 4 or 5 years ago, so everything is done there. The soccer fields, everything is switched over. And then we have a private group there, Atlantic Pickleball. Pickleball, you know, invested strongly on the campus itself because they know it's going to work. So, and then we have other businesses that are interested at the door, other things. So it's a win-win-win. It's a matter of, you know, if I was a member of parliament, running for member of parliament, one of the first things if I was running for Stratford, I'd be saying, oh, yeah, there's 6,000 or 7,000 votes in here in Stratford, and the spin-offs is unmeasurable. Like it's just like commercial, you know, and commercial business and so on. So we're still like the work behind the scenes with Jeremy and 2 Jeremys and staff and everything else is like it's frustrating at times that we hit the doors close sometimes and opens and halfway and so on, but we're going to keep at it.
We're still
because the
confident.
residents deserve it.
Yeah, still confident it's going to happen. It's just let's remind folks of our impact and you know, the impact of our decisions too, and those who support the project and know that it's a big priority for residents.
Yeah.
Would be wise to jump on with that. So it's not a negative thing. I know we've been, and especially on the provincial side, I can't say enough about the investments that they have made or signaled they're going to make here. It's just that we do need, this is a 3-level and, you know, with some private partnership stuff too, it's not a new model, and you know, not to knock on Rustigo, but 650 residents with a $23 million rink, I think, you know, it's just to remind them that we have looked after with our tax increases, with our, you know, we make good decisions not only as a government here, but as residents, and so we can definitely support, and we've signaled that. But yeah, I just want to keep this top of mind for folks as we get into this election.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move. That's it for finance and technology. So we'll move down to infrastructure. I'll just I'll go through this really quick. 4 bids were received for the construction of Glen Stewart Drive multipurpose trail, and we presented in a resolution this evening with his recommendation for the award. Tenders will be received Friday, April 11th for installation of additional hydrants in the core area. 8 hydrants along Shakespeare Drive, 2 along Wilma Gates have been identified in the tender documents. Results will be brought to the May council meeting with a recommendation for award. Proposals will be received tomorrow for design services of the sewer lift station standby generator project. The project includes design work to be completed for the following stations in priority order: Bayside Lift Station, 17 Bayside Drive, East Kepik Lift Station, 180 Vinegar Drive, Stoning Lift Station, 36 Tucker's Way, Skyline Lift Station, 100 Kepwick Road, and Battery Point Lift Station, 13 Battery Point Drive, with work anticipated to begin in July. All 5 locations may not be completed this year, but the budget does, if the budget does not allow. The sump pump redirection rebate program continues, and we encourage residents to call for more information on the eligibility of the program. As you know, the infrastructure staff has been busy, the spring thaw and so on, and ongoing pump maintenance at Horton Sewer Lift Station due to clothes and regs clogging the pumps. Awareness information was provided to the property manager to share with the tenants. Ongoing inspection and maintenance of water and sewer systems and facilities such as manhole covers and valve box covers knocked off with the snowplow operations, and they're being replaced. Managing ongoing customer resident inquiries and concerns. And during the month of March, there was one minor sewer backup reported by residents due to a blockage in the gravity main caused by root intrusion. A sewer jetter and vacuum truck were engaged to cut and remove the roots. That is my report for infrastructure. Any questions? Everybody's good? Okay, we'll move down to the resolution. Resolution number INC 002, 2025 Glen Stewart Drive Multipurpose Trail. Moved by myself. Whereas the 2025 town capital budget includes $685,000 excluding HST, with 50% being funded by the PEI Active Transportation Fund for the construction of Glen Stewart Drive Multipurpose Trail to be completed this summer. Whereas tenders were received on March 11, 2025, with 4 complement bids submitted as follows. Landmark Construction, $217,621. Burt McKay Backhaul Services Limited, $256,680. Island Coastal Service, $270,845. Birchill Construction Limited, $306,632. And whereas Landmark Construction having submitted the lowest bid has completed satisfactory work for the town in the past and has been recommended by the consultant for acceptance. And whereas the engineering fees are estimated to be $42,000 excluding HST for a total estimated project cost of $259,771 plus HST. Being resolved, the Glen Stewart Drive Multipurpose Trail project be awarded to Landmark Construction in the amount of $217,621, HST excluded. This resolution bears a recommendation of the Infrastructure Committee as discussed at a meeting held on March 20th, 2025. Just looking for a second. Seconded by Councilor Jackson. Any discussion? No discussion? Oh.
Yeah. So, I think Councillor Dowling did.
Oh, sorry. It was moved by myself.
Oh, Councillor.
Oh, I can't move it?
Who's vice chair? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good point. Moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by? Seconded by Councillor Dowling. Okay, discussion.
What's the length of this section of active transportation? Do we have a? Where's it go to?
The what? The
Carter's coming in.
Oh, there he is. Yeah.
Carter's my backup tonight.
Yeah.
Was it the length you asked about?
Or like, where's go? Like, where's the start? Where's it end?
It starts at Much Drive, which is just
Yep.
West of Glen Stewart School,
Okay.
and then it extends for about 420 meters eastwards to where it meets the existing asphalt trail near the roundabout at Pearly Drive.
Okay. Okay. So this would, in effect, would this complete that length from like going down McKinnon?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Where it ends now on, just past the roundabout, like off McKinnon on Glen Stewart Drive.
Yeah.
It'll replace all that concrete sidewalk that's in kind of various condition until the asphalt trail begins again at Much Drive.
Straight across the school there, yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, thanks, Carter. Appreciate it.
Any other question?
No.
You're good?
I just had a comment that if I can, or did Councillor Cox have a question? No. Nice to see the bids coming in on the lower side. We had the experience for a long time of having bids come in high, so I'm hoping that's a sign of, unfortunately, maybe a sign of the economy, but good for us to be able to get some projects done, hopefully save some dollars
Yep.
for residents.
I know when I used to be doing these tenders and stuff, it's been a few years since we had this many bidders, so I think that's part of it, but there's also not as much of this work out for tender right now, so we hit it at a good time.
Yep. Okay, the questions on the floor. All in favor? Aye. Okay, motion carried. Okay, we'll move down to Committee of a Whole. I guess the report for Committee of a Whole. I don't have the report here, so we'll move down to inquiries by members of council. Any inquiries by member of council? Or bring up to staff, or bring up to me?
Just germane to that last resolution, I certainly obviously support the resolution. I'm voting in favor of it. In terms of our work, and this is a question for anybody here who might be able to answer, and if no one can, that's fine, but I'd like just put the stake in the ground. In terms of active transportation options on Rosebank Road that have been discussed, I'm just wondering where that might be at in terms of any processes.
Our Director of Infrastructure is not here tonight, but I believe we're still waiting to hear back from what's going to be funded this year. It was put in as an application form, as well as the waterfront area for active transportation, so we're hopeful we'll hear back on those soon.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll move down to other committees and Seniors Committee report. That's mine, so I'm not moving nothing, but I'll throw the report. The following is no review of projects and items being worked on within the Seniors Committee. We met yesterday, April 8th, as a committee. We're working with Infrastructure Department to plan capital projects based on building assessment report. Met with the Director of Infrastructure and the infrastructure staff, discussed maintenance and gardening responsibilities at the Seniors Complex. Received draft financial statements for the Seniors Complex for December 31st, 2024. This will be reviewed by the Seniors Committee on April 8th and then be sent to Council for approval with the years. We received new agreement forms from CMHC, currently reviewing the information. Apartment 5 is now vacant, in the process of getting unit ready and for a new tenant. Review and replacement reserve funds to figure out which capital projects can be completed in the current year. And currently there are 30 people on the waiting list. So that's my report there from that. Any questions around the floor? All good? Ron? Good? Okay then, well, appointments to committees? Nothing, Jeremy? Proclamations? Nope. Other business? Ooh. Motion to adjourn? Corey?
Yep.
Okay, adjourn.